everybody. Welcome to this Friday edition of the Leadership Blend with your host, Ricardo D. Rice, and my correspondents,
Simone Sheree,
Kyle Andrew,
and Shahid.
All right, so interesting week in politics and just in general, actually. It's been a very...
eventful?
Yeah, a very eventful week. I don't know, everybody's just going haywire, and it just seems like everybody has their own opinions in government, and we don't seem to have a collective opinion, as we typically tend to do, which detests the ideology that Simone likes to say about us having more than a two-party system. Yeah, we can't even get any resolution with the two parties we have. So imagine if we extended that table and had 5 people sitting at that table. But I just want to throw that out there, because her sidekick isn't here today, so we going toe-to-toe today. But
double R wherever you are. I hope you're all right.
we're going toe-to-toe today. So, all right, so what we have, Simone?
So we're going to talk a little bit about foreign policy, just to talk about North Korea mostly. This was our kind of second attempt at a summit between Kim Jong-un and President Donald Trump. So we're going to talk about essentially what's being called the Trump-Kim failure and their inability to reach some type of a trade agreement and some agreement that will stop North Korea from essentially testing nuclear weapons and becoming isolatory and more hostile toward the United States and all of our allies. So we'll talk about that a little bit, just so everyone just has a general sense of what's going on. The reason why I also think the news feels so crazy this week is because there's so many different issues, like there's very few themes. So abortion has come back up on the table as a major headline after mostly all Democrats knocked down an abortion bill. Essentially, it's called a survivor's bill, and it would prevent children or babies who were born from a failed abortion from receiving medical care. So that became a point of contention this week. Culturally, there's a few other things going on, too, that I think we can get into, and we probably have a little bit of tech news for you. Marijuana legalization, and I want to talk about some Georgia politics because I did a little bit of citizen lobbying today, this week, which I'd never done before, and I think people need to understand how to get more informed and involved in what's going on. So
look at you being all non-profit-ish, whatever.
Grassrootsy.
There you go.
For the
Okay,
people.
we'll go with that then. That wasn't what I was going for, but okay, that's fine.
Sure.
All right, so what do we want to start with?
Okay, so let's start with the North Korea situation. So we talked about this a little bit before because under the George W. administration and the Hillary administration, we were able to reach some sort of agreement with North Korea. North Korea, similar to Russia, tends to test missiles. And Kim Jong-un is a huge fan of that. He was nicknamed the Rocket Man by our president. I think that's what everybody knows.
What?
Rocket Man. You've never heard him say that?
No.
That's his nickname for Kim Jong-un.
Rocket Man.
Yeah. You're not familiar with that?
No, I don't. Why would he call him that?
Well, he has a nickname for everyone. That's kind of his thing. That's been his running theme. It was Little Rocket Man, then it became Rocket Man, and now I think he's since referred to him as many other things. So I'll read a quick quote that we've been respectful during this summit process, but after a second summit in Vietnam and North Korea were involved, President Trump said that he does not hold the North Korean dictator responsible for some of the most grisly deaths in American history recently. That's the end of the quote, but essentially we do not have a trade agreement with North Korea. North Korea has been accused of a lot of different war crimes. They've held people hostage. They've been responsible for the deaths of a lot of POWs. They've invaded other territories, and in addition, they're always testing missiles, some of which have come far closer to comfort than we would ever like. So there was a sort of bromance reported between Kim Jong-un and Trump last year, but it didn't seem...
I'm not going to say what I was getting ready to say.
But it doesn't seem to be enough to do anything, for us to do anything about it. The UN estimates that North Korea has about 100,000 people in what are called its gulags, so basically it's concentration camps. And this has been the administration that has supposedly done the most of any other administration, but we've made the least progress with North Korea than any of our former presidents have, including President Obama, who did have an agreement with North Korea that at least paused all of the testing of nuclear missiles. So I think it's been a rough week for us in terms of foreign policy, and I think that's our biggest weak point in this administration, if you think about it. Just foreign affairs.
Yeah, because
with our allies, with our enemies, it's the biggest, sloppiest part.
Well, because Trump feels like we shouldn't need anything from anybody and that we should be like, quote unquote, self-sufficient when that's never been our shtick. So to try to do it in I wouldn't even say 4 years because he doesn't really focus on it. He just kind of does it because it's expected of him. So to try to do that and try to close off our walls and make us self-sufficient in less than 4 years, I know you're the demigod in the multiverse that you've created. You can't be that good. Like, diplomacy takes a minute because you're dealing with barriers, you're dealing with cultures and all this. he has never taken the time to master it. So it's just kind of something he knows he has to do, so he does it. The weird relationship between him and this, I want to say Kim Jong-il, but that's not the one. This is another one. The relationship they have is weird because they're both slightly weird. They both have this dictatorship type mentality. So of course they're gonna get along on some level because they both feel that way, that they're dictators and the world should bow to their every whim. So they're going to operate like that. So it is a little surprising that they couldn't make any headway because you two kind of think alike.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
But I think the better question is North Korea gunning to be the new Russia? Because, during the Cold War type days, Russia and us were always neck and neck with nuclear weapons. So the question becomes, is North Korea bucking to be the new Russia? They're not nearly as big and not nearly as equipped.
They don't have as many allies either, they don't have and they're far more isolated than Russia is. I still don't. North Korea does not allow, but I think 5 journalists, period, that are not from North Korea to report there, and they're hand selected. So we have one. I think Great Britain has one. 3 other locales, but basically they're incredibly isolationist, whereas Russia is not quite that severe. Russia's still been accused of lots of human rights violations, lots of war crimes, crimes against homosexual people, crimes against women. Like, it's still a dictatorship. Putin's still a dictator, but it's just not quite the same level of secrecy. Like, there's more of a way that we can see what's going on.
We're talking about
over
the
there.
old days now. We're not talking about this new broken up Russia. We're talking about the old days when Russia or the Soviet Union was, it was kind of a, you don't come here, we don't go there. You don't come here, we don't go there. This is what we do. We don't care if you like it or not. North Korea kind of operates like this. Like, we don't really care how you feel about what we do or what I do. This is what it is. So I don't know. It all makes me kind of nervous.
So I have a question. You guys said that North Korea they're testing missiles, and that's what we're trying to stop them from doing?
Yes.
How do you test a missile? Where do you aim it? Where is it going?
Up and out into the ether and maybe to surrounding waters.
And do they have a missile pointed at us?
No, they're not that stupid. Yeah. But they shoot it over places. I think
I'm shrugging.
Places.
Because for all I know, at this very moment, they do. I don't know.
Well, they have been known to shoot weapons over, it's either Japan or China, one of the two, because it was a real issue, and one of them took it to the UN. But yeah, you kind of just point in the stratosphere, but at some point it's going to run over somebody's territory. And like I said, I think it was either China or Japan. It ran over their territory, and they were like, okay, wait a minute, player. Yeah. Y'all a little too close for comfort. Yeah. So I think it became this big issue, and I think we did get involved and say, hey, okay, look, y'all pulling stunts and shows. Stop. Like, y'all doing too much. Stop. Yep. But, at the end of the day, whoever has the nuclear warheads can do some serious damage if push comes to shove.
Right.
So it's something we haven't had to think about for a minute, but because they acting a fool, now we're having to readdress, okay, do we need to, because everybody signed treaties saying they wouldn't, do that kind of stuff, or they would disarm their nukes and so on and so forth. But I have to look up to see where North Korea stands in that. But North Korea has always been a problem child. And it's weird because North Korea versus South Korea, they're 2 different places.
Right.
And they're literally like South Dakota and North Dakota. Mm-hmm. But they're 2 different places. Like, we go to South Korea and it's all fun and games. But then you can't even get into North Korea. And if you should, it's like going to a refugee camp. You backpacking in the wilderness, hoping that you don't get shot. Like, they're night and day, but they're literally on each other. It's the craziest thing. And I never understood when we went over in history. I was like, so you're telling me they're literally side by side, and they operate like 2 completely different entities. Yeah. But they do.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. Like I said, he has the spirit of Kim Jong-il, who was his predecessor. And he was crazy. He used to wear, we did a whole synopsis on it, because, my undergrad was politics. So we did a whole synopsis on Kim Jong-il, and he had a complete Napoleon complex. He used to wear the sky-high boots to be taller. He just did all kinds of stuff. It was kind of crazy.
That's a thing.
Yeah, he would wear the moon boots to feel taller, and he had a real Napoleon complex. So it's kind of like it's just weird. So
I think another thing that's important to think about is that Donald Trump said that, America first is his policy. So he really said that he wanted everything, especially our trade agreements and even our way of life, to be beneficial to Americans. He thinks that he wants to see us winning in all of these different areas. And I think that it also informs a lot of his immigration policy. Like, him putting his thumb on Canada at times, at Mexico, on all these different countries is it's like an offset of the fact that he's trying so hard to lift America up from where he believes that it is. And so That makes me think about the wall, which this week there was a hearing about family separation, about the kids at the U.S.-Mexico border who were separated from their families. And there was a hearing which was, I heard, very tearful, very emotional. I didn't watch it. I did read a transcript of it, which basically kind of makes it look like no one has any idea what they're doing. Like there was no tracking mechanism to report on or to even keep track of who was being separated from their families beforehand. So there was no way to start doing that once they've been separated. There have been, this was new that I didn't know, there have been thousands of allegations of sexual abuse against children who are in custody. I did not know that at the time.
That does not surprise me because these kids, you have to look at the way when you put somebody in a cage, you pretty much saying your life pretty much means nothing and through actions. So what's the next step? These kids are probably, sexual abuse is probably going to creep his head in because you feel like nobody's watching and nobody cares. And when you put them in cages, you kind of treat them like pets. Sick people think like that. So I was not surprised when I saw the headline saying that these kids claiming they were sexually abused, while they were separated from their families. It's god awful, but the sickos of the world think like that. Oh, well, clearly they put them in cages. Their life means pretty much nothing to us. So if I got to be here with them all day and all night, people think like that. It's the weirdest, sickest thing. People think like that. So I really wasn't surprised. I was disgusted and hoping it wouldn't happen. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't surprised when I saw that article saying that they were claiming they were sexually abused.
Yeah, it's really a shame. And I think, I don't know how long it's been now. I know that this started last year at the same time, January, February. Well, it's March 1st today. But
God, it's already March 1st?
Yes.
First of them.
Yes.
This will be one of fly years. This will be one of fly years. We're going to look around. It's going to be August.
It is. But it's been at least 6 months, I know, since they started reporting about all of the, I think the number was 250 at the time, kids that were confirmed and separated from their parents. And that number has not gotten much lower, which is kind of sad. Like, I think they still said there's at least 150 that they're not in cages, but they're separated from their parents still. So I don't know what they plan to do because the administration has done such a poor job. Democrats have they've been authorized to oversee this. So Democrats that now run the House for the next 2 years are going to be checking and balancing the administration and Homeland Security because clearly they've just made a mess of this. And kids have been killed or kids have died, I should say.
Which is funny to me because I'm like, okay, even in the midst of all of this, but this is the problem I have with these causes we have. It was a whole movement. Oh my God, get the kids out of cages, blah, blah, blah. Nothing now. Nothing. And we're not talking about a year ago. Mm-hmm. Nothing. So our focus has gone back to building the wall, but we still haven't rectified the kids who were in cages and that whole debacle of these kids being separated from their families. We got to do something about this hashtag movement and this immediate gratification that we feel. It's like, whereas one time we would go walk into a nonprofit and volunteer, social media has made us lazy. So now it's just like we'll just start a hashtag and we'll be we'll say what we got to say and then we're gonna move on. We're gonna give it about a month or two of our attention and then we're gonna move. We never get a resolve half the time, but something new pops up. It's almost like shining a light in front of a kitten and they move wherever the light is. The light that time was on these kids in cages. Now we don't move the light to something else. Whatever happens to the kids in the cages, like we got to stop doing this. Yeah. We got to stop doing it. Like, it doesn't help anybody, and it's only like a microwaved fix. And it's not even a fix. It's like a microwave Band-Aid. Like, we look at it for 1 minute. We get everybody's attention on it. People scream, yell, start a GoFundMe, and then the GoFundMe money's gone. The lights have been turned on. The party's over. Like, we can't keep doing this.
I think this is just about, too, like, what gets people's attention and how media is always competing with other media. Like, media shops are shutting down left and right, and if like the big cable news outlets, they have to follow whatever the relevant story is of the day. But that doesn't mean any of these other stories actually die. They're just not going to be covered the same way. So if Trump starts a tweet storm, that's going to be the topic of the day because they're just going to be all over that and covering that and focusing on that. Kind of like the Cohen hearing yesterday. 2 days ago? It's Friday. So kind of like the Cohen hearing, like whatever's new is what they're going to cover. If you want actual journalism.
Here is my thing on the Cohen thing. Who cares? There you go.
Explain.
Who cares?
He was indicted. He was indicted for perjury, for campaign finance violations. He was Trump's lawyer for years and years and was a great lawyer, according to Trump, before he was charged with a crime. And then Trump wanted nothing to do with it and said he had no knowledge of anything that was going on, which Cohen, to his credit, testified, as he had before, that Trump knew everything. If he didn't know it, he was if he didn't know it, like participate, he knew it like he was aware of what was going on.
Here's the thing. He said that Trump was a racist.
Mm-hmm.
Secretly, don't we all know that?
Yeah.
We all know that secretly. It's some of the things he says. We all know that secretly, or it's etched in the back of our minds. Like, Trump be saying some off the wall stuff. Like, does he really believe this stuff that he says?
Yeah, but some of the
Secretly,
stuff Michael Cohen said was just kind of like blatant racism. Like what he said about Barack Obama. He was like, they were in South Chicago and they passed some apartments, and apparently Trump had said only black people can live like this, or black people are one. That's not funny. But
It's really not funny. It's really not funny.
Or he said black people won't vote for me because they're too stupid. And he also said when Barack Obama was president, he was like, "Have you ever? Do you know of a country that's been run by a president that's not an s-hole?"
Yeah, he's talking about black.
Yeah.
and had we
country.
never heard this, because I've heard this even when he was running, I heard all this stuff. So
Well, it wasn't as blatant though.
And it definitely wasn't, not to the same
blatant
extent
means
at all.
blatant implies that Trump stood behind a microphone and said this to the American people.
But,
He didn't.
but oftentimes when he was accused of this before, it was people who were on the outside. It wasn't somebody who was in his circle confirming, yeah, he's really.
Well,
it
he's
was,
not
you know
really
what
in
I mean?
his circle. He kind of got thrown out the circle.
But he
So
was, and he was undoubtedly in his circle. Undoubtedly.
was and is are two different things.
And he's
Nobody
saying
cares.
that. Nobody
Look,
else is close to
I
Trump.
said
is
it before we
saying
went on
that.
the air. I will say it again. No one cares because Cohen has been exiled from the Trump circle. So all he does is like a disgruntled guy who's singing like a canary because his freedom is on the line. Nobody cares. Now, if Ivanka comes out and says my dad's a racist, hold him ball game. Everybody's gonna stop what he's doing and we're gonna take an ear. But Cohen has been kicked out of the Trump circle. He just seems disgruntled and he's trying to avoid jail time or any other fine or whatever the case to be. Nobody cares. It's like putting a convict on the stand who, if you promise him immunity if he sings like canary on the mob.
Why did they do it if we weren't going to listen to some of what he had to say and take it seriously?
To appease people. It's all about optics these days. It's all about optics. We want to make it seem like we care and we going after the man. But at the end of the day, the American people was like, okay, that's just like somebody who was a part of the mob, get kicked out of the mob, or get shot by one of their homeboys, and now they sing like canaries. Well, yeah, we ran a heist. We was the one that robbed the bank. We was the one that robbed the grocery store. Bruh, you was with them when they did all this. You only sing it because they'll give you immunity if you rat on everybody. That's what this looks like. So nobody cares. Somebody can go drop in his hole where he was, or go back to his prison cell. Nobody cares. Take him away.
Man. Sorry, Michael.
Take him away. Nobody cares.
The reason I sympathize, I'll just say I sympathize because, I won't say I sympathize, but I get it. It makes sense to me because when you're a lawyer, that's kind of your job, is to protect your client. And he testified that he was asked a question, how many times did you have to threaten someone, or did Mr. Trump want you to threaten someone to either shut them up or to get them to do what he needed them to do? And he said, I couldn't possibly guess. He said, okay, they offered him numbers 50 times. He was like, way more. 100 times, way more. 200 times, way more. 500, he's like, yeah, that's about right. So, imagine being a lawyer and having this obligation to defend your client and hundreds of times
I see it every day when I watch How to Get Away with Murder or when I watch any Suits. I see it every day that they have the cover for dirt bags and sleazeballs.
I see. I will say President Trump still has a 44% job approval rating. Just
you never cease to amaze me. Now you will sympathize with this canary singing dirtbag, but you won't side with people who should get minimum wage. I just want to throw that out there. Yes, I did it. I just want to throw the first punch. I just want to put that out there. You never cease to amaze me. But you're sympathize with this dirtbag.
My sympathy cuts all ways.
What?
My sympathy cuts all ways. There's just certain things that are true and certain things that are just not true. But I sympathize with everyone. I really do.
You sympathize
my
more
sympathy
with your
has
little
no
rich
limits.
friends. You sympathize with your little rich friends.
Kyle's like my only rich friend nowadays. One of few.
Whatever. I'm just saying. I was gonna say something else, but I forgot what it was.
We can. So 2020. Do you want to move to 2020, or do you want to fall back and have our income conversation? That one could take a while.
No, I don't want to do the income yet.
Okay, we can wait. So
I don't want to do the income yet.
2020. I think there's a really interesting update here. Well, not even an update. I think it's momentum. We were talking about momentum for so long, and Bernie had an incredible 24 hours after he announced, and he's still like light years ahead of everyone else on the Democratic ticket.
That's not going to change.
Has needed to fundraise, and it's really incredible. So he's over $10 million as of today.
Seriously?
Yes, over $10 million. About 360,000 different donors. His average contribution is still technically kind of small, but a lot of these campaigns are won, if you don't know, by major gifts. So by gifts that are at least 4 figures, at least.
But actually, that speaks better to him, though, because the fact that the average Joe is willing to give you 20 of their hard-earned dollars.
Oh, yeah.
Says a lot. It actually says, I mean, I said it last week, I'll say it again. At this point, Bernie is a clear forerunner, and the only question I have is who is he going to pick to be his running mate? I'm voting for Kamala Harris. I'm not even going to front because I think she's the best bet. Maybe Elizabeth Warren if she acts right, but I can't see them two being on the same ticket.
So Cory Booker has raised a good amount of money overall, like in his career, especially for his Senate runs and stuff like that. Like he had a year when he was running for Senate where he raised over $20 million.
Over what time period?
Over like a 4-year period in which he was running for Senate. But the thing is, most people pour in money during the election year. So if all the numbers that we see this year, they're going to be good, but next year is going to be bigger because people are going to reach down deeper into their pockets, like as the field narrows and as like the heat comes on over the summer and between like September through November, right up to election day, people throw money. I think that's when we'll really see the fundraising.
So you have numbers? So who would be second? Like who would be second after Bernie?
Second is Elizabeth Warren.
Really?
Elizabeth, yeah.
Well, I can see that.
Yeah. So in her first 24 hours, she was only at 300,000, but she's still under 6 million right now. She's raised a lot of money again as a senator before, but in this current election, she's in second. Kamala Harris is third. Actually, Cory Booker is fifth. So fourth place is Amy Klobuchar, she's a Minnesota senator, and she really did not come to my attention and probably a lot of other people's attention until Kavanaugh because she was the questioner. She was the questioner, essentially. She was the moderator, essentially, the whole thing. So she's in fourth over Cory Booker. And then sixth is Kirsten Gillibrand out of New York, she's been on people's radar for a while. Beneath that is Andrew Yang, who is an entrepreneur and kind of like a long shot candidate. The one who said he wants to pay everyone $1,000 a month.
Yang.
Yeah. See.
Or Yang.
Yeah. So.
Wait, what? He wants to pay about $1,000 a month.
$1,000 a month. He says it should be a universal basic income of $1,000 per month.
Oh, wait, really? Universal basic income come in?
I'm sorry.
So now you're listening?
I'm sorry.
We can go to a break.
I was listening. I was just being passive.
I'm sorry. You two are young. $1,000 won't do much.
Exactly. So that
That
means
doesn't mean
you
you
can't
can't
be
not
lazy.
work.
I'm not even caring about the $1,000. I'm just more surprised about this because I heard about universal basic income from a YouTube video, but I just never thought anybody would actually implement it in government right now.
People are trying, including Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and a slew of other socialists. But more importantly, this person, as a very wealthy entrepreneur, is saying that this is more than doable, even if we don't have to burden the taxpayer. He still doesn't have an actual detailed plan on his site.
So he just talking his tail.
Yeah, but I wouldn't put it past anybody nowadays. Like, people, I think, are so desperate for... I mean, we're building walls. Like, I wouldn't put it past him. I put the candidacy past him at this point because he just hasn't really raised any money. And he may be... When you run for president, it can be very beneficial for your career. So I almost think that a lot of candidates are just kind of going to throw their name out there for career's sake. I mean, people do that.
Well, we still got one more wild card. Joe Biden. Joe Biden, he's still playing with it, but he's close to making a decision. So my honest opinion is the Burnster. Look, on this show, when we say Bernie, we refer to him as the Burnster. So the Burnster and Joe Biden, in my personal opinion, will be your top people if Joe Biden decides to run. Because like I said, Joe Biden is a phenomenal wingman. So actually, them two, no, they both old. I'm about to say them two could have been on a ticket together. They old. No, they don't need to be together.
I mean,
because one might die and the other one won't be too far behind him. That's not a good idea. It's got to be somebody young.
He said it would not be Hillary.
I need Hillary
he said it would
to
not
stay
be
out where she at. I love Hillary, but she need to stay where she at. Hillary don't have a shot in... I was going to say something. I was going to say that either. Hillary has a better shot of being struck by lightning in the same place 3 times than actually winning. You know, if you know lightning, you know how rare that is. Yeah. So she has a better chance of being struck by lightning 3 times in the same place than to win an election. She just need to call it quits. Just stay close to whoever gets the nomination and just let them put you in some cushy office. Because we do need you. We just don't need you on the main stage.
Trump kind of warned, Cohen Michael Cohen during his testimony kind of said
Was
something
still
odious
saying his
about
name.
Trump. He said something odious about Trump. He was like, if Trump doesn't win in 2020, he thinks it will be an unpeaceful transition. Like he doesn't believe that Trump is going to leave that White House very easily, which I thought was kind of
I
frightening.
think that's funny.
I mean,
It
I
is-
don't,
it's
I don't think
funny
he's
if
gonna
it's
get a choice.
not true.
Well, he would follow. Didn't that what happened in Venezuela?
Yeah, but this is not Venezuela. In 300
I don't
years,
know,
America
sis.
has never had a problem stepping down.
I don't know, because with Trump, you never know. Like I said, he think he a demigod in the multiverse, so he probably would feel like that Venezuela dictator who was like, "I'm not going anywhere." So
He may
y'all
just
can
trash it
vote.
before he leaves, like a bad tenant. Like, oh, I
And I
can't
hope-
renew. I'm just gonna trash it.
And I hope somebody take pictures of it and put it all over social media. Like, this
Lord.
is what Trump does. He just
Yeah.
trashes the White House.
Yep.
Like he had a rager the night before he was supposed to leave, and there's just bodies all over the floor, beer cans all
think
over
he-
the.
man.
I would want to be in that party. That would be nice.
He's still in the lead, right?
This is before or
now.
after all y'all get arrested.
I mean, I'm not going to get arrested.
Oh, you will be arrested, sir.
No.
You'll
First.
be the first
to
one.
get
Exactly. You'll be the first one to get arrested. I hate to
First.
bear
I will be the
bad
last
news.
No. Side note, Trump is still in the lead overall at 100. He's already raised 100 million towards his reelection.
I mean, we know he'll raise the money. It's just a matter, can we break up that base
Yeah.
so that we can get somebody in there? All right, so we're going to take our first break. And when we come back, we'll have more on this and other current events on the Leadership Blend with your host, Ricardo D. Rice.
Cause I was born a water baby, swimming with these times, the grooves that turn the gray to sunshine. Cause I will live through days that break me, swimming with these times, the grooves that turn the gray to sunshine.
I'm still trying to write the story as I see it. The trouble is when I say it, they don't believe it. They reckon I only say it, but I don't mean it. I'm trying to tell them I only say it if I can feel it. Cause money's tight, maybe tighter than it was before. I'm helping out on a mortgage I really can't afford. Family breaking north, I covered the trips abroad. Shaking up, making another loss on another tour. But what I done it for? To see my mother in the sun abroad. I run in the trouble that was coming for. My little brother got the hunger for. All the exact same pain that makes the rain in my stomach pour. So let me paint it broader. This for any dude who's got a daughter, living off lines like your papa taught her. Ain't got no time to be coming for you. Go with the flow with this, run the water. Go with the flow with this. Go with the flow with this. Go with the flow with this.
Don't you worry, two leaves won't grow the same, and people might forget your name. Doesn't matter if they do. Don't you hurry, when the hot coffee pours will stain, and when the Uber left you in the rain, your time will come around to you. Despite the stress of spending so much time alone, cause this geography is keeping me at home when I don't know the way to go. I move with the flow of this running water, this running water. Cause I was born a water baby, swimming with these times, the grooves that turn the gray to sunshine. Cause I will live through days that break me, swimming with these times, the grooves that turn the gray to sunshine.
Go with the flow with this, run the water.
All right, everybody, welcome back to this Friday edition of the Leadership Blend with your host, Ricardo D. Rice, and my correspondent,
Simone Cherie.
Kyle Andrew.
And Shahid.
All right, Kyle, take it away.
All right, so last week we were talking about the teacher strikes, specifically the one in Oakland. And the issue was that teachers cannot afford the cost of living in Oakland, California. And there's like this debate between the school district and the teachers, where the teachers are demanding a 12% pay increase over the next 3 years. However, the district can only afford to give them at least a 5% raise.
I don't like that word.
At least?
No, afford. I don't like that word because we pull money from any place we want to pull money from to do whatever we want to do. So I don't like that word, but carry on.
Yeah, so I mean, what they can offer them is a 5% raise over the next 3 years. And then we got into the conversation between private sector and public sector. So you wanted to know the difference between the two. So public sectors are a part of the country's economy where the control and maintenance are completely handled by the government. And private sectors are owned and managed by private individuals and corporations. And like the basic objective of public sectors is to serve citizens in the country. However, the basic objective of private sectors is to earn profit. So that probably, does that like clear your head a little bit on why?
Well, I thought you had some numbers. Did you bring me some numbers?
No numbers.
That's what we was fighting about. We was fighting about numbers.
What kind of numbers?
Private school teachers versus public school teachers salary difference. So run on over, scamper on over to salary.com
Okay.
and see what we're looking at. Because the ideology is that private school teachers make more money, but they probably have less of the benefits that public school teachers have.
I hope. I have, just from experience, my private school, there was a situation where teachers weren't getting paid and they were just leaving. So I don't know if that was
paid.
Just, they weren't getting paid. They weren't happy with what they were getting paid. I don't know because I'm the type of person, I just mind my business. But I don't know like the facts of it. I could pretty much I can call like one of my high school friends and she could probably give you the whole spiel on it because she was just all in everybody's pockets. But
I mean, it makes a difference.
Well, so if we're just talking about teachers, I know something from The Atlantic that was cited a few years ago that private school teachers get paid much less than public school teachers. They talked about the working conditions being a potential reason for the difference. So they said a lot of instructors are willing to work in a private school, even though they're earning less because it is less, smaller classroom sizes, better overall working conditions. But they make way less. The comparison was $50,000 average for public and $36,000 for private, which is that's not just a gap. That's 3/4, 2/3. So it's a really big difference, I think, in terms of an annual salary. If we're just talking about teachers.
I think you manipulate those numbers to try
It's
to
on
make
The
me look
Atlantic.
bad.
yeah, that's where I am too, The Atlantic.
Yeah.
So wait, seriously?
So go ahead.
Teachers make more?
I
Than
find
private,
that somebody is playing with numbers. I find that very hard to believe because private schools have a lot more flexibility and a lot more leeway.
So maybe that's what the article is saying. They're saying that people will probably still opt for it because it is better. Better in that it's better working conditions. Like the average class size in public schools is huge. That's not the case in private school. So it is better working.
I graduated with 16 people.
Dang.
The whole class?
It was 16 of us. We graduated.
That's incredible.
It's like y'all went
That's
to,
incredible.
it's like y'all went to Umbrella Academy. Like what?
Exactly, yeah.
So all the money that you're paying for the school, where does it go to at that point? Does it go to the teachers? Like, who's it really going to at that point?
Oh, you know what? Now that I think about it,
Technology.
the overhead is higher for a private school because they're not getting government funding. So they're paying for their building. They're paying. Oh, I guess that does make sense. So the only thing they can really provide is a better environment.
And I think there's just less people that have private school tuition money when there's public schools. So it's definitely going to be smaller, less occupied.
But I guess that changes the conversation about whether charter schools, the placing for charter schools. Is there a place for charter schools? And if there is, how much government funding should charter schools receive since they're not as inviting as public schools?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
All right, so all you teachers, on my Facebook Live, feel free at Ricardo Ricky Rice, that's Rice with a W, feel free to chime in on my live chat and give us your 2 cents. And I'm feel bad. Shout out to my sister Janae because I was supposed to talk to her over the weekend and get some insight, but I didn't. She's going to kill me. But I love you because you're the best.
The Economic Policy Institute posted, they did a publication. This is back in, I think, 2014, 2015, so it's a couple years old. And they discussed that the popular view of teachers' pay is that it is relatively low, that it hasn't kept up with comparable professions. But they did a report breaking it down to the hour based on like the compensation, the benefits data, any other sort of fringe benefit bias that may exist, and determined that there actually is not that gap, that it does go in the other direction, but it varies according to education. So, and teacher is a very broad term. So we could be talking about professors, we could be talking about private versus public institutions. But in general, when we're talking about bachelor's degree or teacher certifications or any non-doctoral, non-terminal degree, or if we're talking about an elite university, it is less, you will make less as a teacher than somebody in the private sector at some other profession, whether it's finance, healthcare, any other profession. That changes as the wage goes up. So at that entry level, which I think is what I was talking about when this first came up, it is more profitable to work in the public sector in some level. Even if you're a teacher, even if you're working for government, it is more profitable. Where it gets shaky is when you have a doctorate and you're a teacher. Then you're not really earning as much as you could be with a doctorate somewhere else. So at that high level, teachers are underpaid in comparison. But at a base level with just 4 years, or maybe a certificate in childhood education, then no. With all the fringe benefits, you are making as much, if not more, than your peers would be.
Well, but the ideology is that the higher degree you have, the more you move out of teaching and move into administration. So that's why I always tell people, it's like, well, I want to get blah, blah, blah. Well, then you probably should get and this is where me and teachers part ways. Because I felt some kind of way that teacher can get an educational specialist degree, which is pretty much a doctorate without dissertation. Because I tried it. But I didn't have, my undergrad is not in education. But they can get an EDS, education specialist, which is almost like a doctor. They just don't have to do a dissertation. And they're a doctor. And it makes me feel some kind of way. But I digress. But the ideology is the higher the degree that you have, the more you start moving into administration, which I always tell people, and people have to be mindful of this. When you're trying to affect major change, it's better to sit in an administrative seat than to sit in a regular teaching seat or something like that.
Right.
And that's the part that people forget. It's just in general. If you're trying to make major change, it starts with legislation and laws. It doesn't necessarily start at the ground level. So you have to keep those things in mind. So that's why I told my sister when she was considering getting hers, I was like, so you plan on being a principal? Or going to the superintendent's office? Because, I mean, you'll get more money, but I'm sure it won't be as significant as if you were to move into administration. But then the kickback is why I love kids. You like being broke? Because you can do both, but I wouldn't want to do both. I can love the kids and still be a principal and get more done.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of would be the ideology behind that.
And yeah, I think that extends to other industries, like you said, like healthcare. If you're in an administrative position, you are in a position to affect change. There is less grueling working conditions on a daily basis than if you practice medicine and you are on call or you are there all night long, versus being in an administration situation where you're in an office environment. So, I mean, the quality of life is, I'm sure, considerably different when you spend all day working with patients kind of on the ground, quote unquote, like a teacher in a classroom, quote unquote, versus somebody who's doing education policy or who's in the administration of a school. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it kind of goes along with that. I think it's just, those are important roles, and I can't minimize that importance, because teachers, they're important, they just are. But I think the bigger
Teachers
question
are
is...
vital. They're not important, they're vital. Are you
vital.
going to go into a classroom and teach 5-year-olds? I'm not. So they're doing God's work. Shout out to all the teachers for doing God's work, because you will never get me to go teach my kids' 5-year-old class. And no, so they're doing God's work. God bless you.
So like I said, I think the system should be reformed.
Every system needs to be reformed at this point.
It should. It should be totally reformed, at which point then I would certainly go and teach some 5-year-olds something.
I can't see you teaching 5-year-olds.
I absolutely would.
I mean, you wouldn't go into your kids' class and for like career day where the parents come in and tell the kids what they do.
I get exhausted just from watching the twins, let alone spending the whole day with them. You gotta remember.
Well, so that's where you're losing me.
What?
And this is what I'm saying is not necessary. We don't maybe need to spend an entire day for an entire year, an entire 3 years or 5 years with children to teach them. We just don't need to do that.
It's not a fact. See, this is how I know you don't spend a lot of time with kids. Because if you think you're going to walk into a class with 25-year-olds, you can get them to pay attention to anything you're doing, you're delusional. Actually, you know what? Me and you going to take a trip to my kids' class.
Okay.
and I want you to spend the whole day in them, and I give you 2 hours, and you be like, I don't want to do this no more. I don't play no more. I want to get off. Like
I don't want to
your
play.
job
I want
consists of
benefits.
so many other facets, especially the younger they get, because their attention span is so short. So trying to get them to make a macaroni a necklace out of macaroni, that's gonna be a 5-hour project because they're gonna want to eat the macaroni, they're gonna want to eat the paste that you put on it, they're gonna want to tie each other up with the rope that you're gonna make the necklace.
All you were doing is making the project sound like a bad idea.
It really is.
Okay, so then maybe we just wouldn't do macaroni projects in my class.
My point is they're doing God's work, and we should at least make sure they're getting a decent paycheck. That's all I'm saying. That
All
they can live off.
Okay, so what do we call decent?
For a teacher?
For anyone. What's decent?
About at least $35,000 minimum for a teacher because they're doing God's work.
$35,000 is different in Arkansas than it is in California or Georgia. So where 35 period, no matter where they are, New York, 35,000.
I see what you're trying to do.
I'm just asking.
That's fine. I see what you're trying to do.
There's
That's fine.
subjectivity involved
That's fine.
here.
It's no different. You said it just like you said minimum wage. Minimum wage is different for every state based off its brackets.
I'm surprised you think 35,000 is decent. Well, we may have more
I
in
said
common.
decent. I didn't say great.
Okay. That's what I'm okay with decent. What I have a problem with is cushion and fluff and glam.
So
luxury
what would be your
and
what would
pomp.
be your number?
That's what I have a problem with.
What would be your number? I know you don't want to give one. I know you don't want to give one.
What the market demands. Whatever the market demands would be my number.
There still should be some kind of hold the line number that everybody sits on.
I just don't believe in that. That's the thing. I don't
care.
in that.
I want you to pick a number.
But I would say, I think I would agree with 35. That's fair. That's fair. You can have 35 a year. Let's see how many people are jumping up and down about that. I'll agree to 35. That's cool.
Again, I'm just saying it's a starting point for negotiations. I'm not saying that's the end all be all.
I think the average is actually 50. So I think you just took them
for
down.
teachers?
Yes, according to
Across
Economic
the
Policy
board.
Institute. Yeah, and that's all states. That's what I'm saying. It's average. It doesn't mean it's the average in Arkansas or in Georgia. But 50K is the average. So you just took them down 15K.
Dang.
According to Economic Policy
I'm
Institute.
sorry, teachers. I'm so sorry.
And that's a very low number. And like I said, that's about $17 an hour. So I agree.
Decent? Wait.
I agree. $17 an hour. Go ahead. All day.
Again, that's a jump off point for that's a jump off point for
this whole thing is
negotiations.
a jump off.
For negotiations. That's all I'm saying.
Just another tidbit for you, especially if you love numbers and statistics. The Cato Institute, a great think tank, shout out to Cato Institute, did a recent report. This is 2016-2017 data about the federal government and about federal employees. So this would not necessarily be teachers in all cases. It could be your local driver's services employees. It could be your postman. It could be a corrections officer. Average federal employee is going to earn 80% more than a private sector worker. Average is 80%, at the lowest 42%. That includes compensation, that includes benefits. Again, some of the benefits that we've talked about is the student loan forgiveness, health care, being virtually free for spouses' independence, dental, vision, et cetera, and most importantly, pensions and or retirement. Retirement is a very contentious issue in this economy because it's becoming increasingly rare that someone is retired. I don't know if you've gone to your local grocery stores lately or even restaurants. There are many people who were in retirement currently now working in these establishments. People who had to come out of retirement because it's just too hard to make it off retirement income. So, and in the private sector, we have no guarantees for retirement. As an example, myself and Kyle pay into Social Security. We will probably never collect Social Security because it is bankrupt.
Oh, please don't tell my daddy that. We get into it every time I go home about that.
Yeah, we probably will not collect it. But as a federal employee, that is not an issue because there's still such a thing as pensions, which I thought was kind of like a fantasy. Yes, still exists. Very much so. Very much so. And even for just a certain amount of service. It doesn't have to be that you spent 30 or 40 or 50 years. For any year in a lot of federal jurisdictions, there is some level of pension for you. So, and the union, I mean, God, the benefits go on and on. So anyway, I think that's where a lot of this comes from. I think there's something.
You're not about to try to make this out to be like some glorious occupation. That's what you're not about to do.
No, I'm not trying to make it glorious, and I do think that I can imagine how unfulfilling it might be as there's no change over time or there's little innovation over time. I just think, if you want to reform education, I think starting at the policy level, considering being a part of administration, kind of changing the way we do education will make a big difference. So we don't have to squabble over salaries for doing something that we're finding all these holes in all the time, with kids who aren't graduating or with this that's substandard, et cetera, et cetera. I think we need to focus on changing education, and then we can talk about how much we should be paid for it. That's my soapbox.
I mean, I can get there. I can get there. Okay, so I want to segue to something dumb. So before we got on the air, y'all was talking about this whole Jordan Woods debacle.
Yeah.
So
What do you mean we? She was talking about the whole Jordan.
I
Woods.
asked
Kyle
what
was
people
eating it
thought.
up.
I think it's entertaining. I think it's funny.
Fine,
Go ahead, Kyle.
go.
I want your opinion.
But y'all
Okay,
got to
so-
explain it first, cause
You want me to explain it, or because if I explain it, I'm gonna go ahead and break it down.
fine. This
All right,
ought to be
so
good.
Kylie Jenner recently found out. The whole family found out that Kylie Jenner's best friend Jordan Woods was at a party with Khloe Kardashian's baby's father. I'm trying to make it not sound
Yes.
ghetto.
It is ghetto. So
Her baby's father,
it doesn't
father of the
matter how
child.
you.
Go ahead.
Her baby daddy. Her baby daddy.
They were at a party and they were all snugged up. And
Wait, they have
were-
kids together?
No.
One.
Chloe and Tristan Thompson have
Yes,
a
a
daughter.
daughter
I mean,
named
not-
True.
Not Jordan
It
though.
was so cute.
How we spell true?
TRUE.
TRUE.
Before you
It's
insult her.
Hollywood babies, man. It's different.
So they were at this party, and before, when all the guests came in, there were no phones allowed in. So I don't know how we found out.
That was my next question.
You already know.
Yeah, I guess word of mouth. So
Do
the
we
whole
have
family-
receipts?
No,
Oh,
there are no
there's
pictures.
proof.
There are no pictures, but the whole family has basically confirmed it. They're sending subliminal messages on Instagram and their Snapchats. Kylie and Jordan used to live together, but Kylie has since kicked Jordan out, and Jordan is now back living with her mother. And now Jordan Woods is in talks to be on Red Table Talk with Jada Pinkett Smith.
Yeah, it will air today.
How we get there?
Which people are saying that goes against the non-disclosure agreement that Jordan had with the Kardashian family.
You mean the royal Kardashian family?
The Royal Kardashian film. That's a good way to put it.
No, we're not doing that now on
Here's
the
the
show.
thing.
We're not doing
She
that.
she
We're not
supposedly
doing that. Not
has
here.
ties with the Smiths and felt very comfortable talking to Jada Pinkett about it. That's what I understand. Now, the promo looks really silly. There's a promo of Jordan, like, the camera's from behind, and she's, like, walking down these steps, and she turns to, like, sit at this red table and just kind of stares off into space, which she does often, which a lot of them do often. I don't think it's a very good look, considering the way they speak and then watching them stare off into space. It doesn't really help. But I'm interested to see what she has to say. It looks like she's not making any excuses for it. She has not denied it. So, no, there's no receipts, but she hasn't denied that she did this. She's very sorry she did this. I was seeing the reporting from TMZ, who are hilarious. They are coons. They know better. They basically were like, Jordan just threw away a $900 million money bag of a best friend who...
Idiot.
Slick.
Jordan Woods and Kylie Jenner have they finally launched like a venture together, like a co-makeup line that they co-partnered. She's been offered lots of modeling opportunities by Chloe. Chloe has a jean line anyway, she was a plus size model for that. And essentially was kind of benefiting from all the perks of having billionaire best friends and multi-millionaire
Well, here's the thing.
extended best friends and
Here's the thing.
messed around with Tristan Thompson.
Cardi B gave us a whole new definition of how to utilize reality TV and those kind of outlets to really get where you want to be. So if you're going to play this game, then play the game. Like, secure your bag, and then you can go do what you want to do. And if that involves taking somebody baby daddy, hey, it is what it is. It's not like the Kardashians don't go through men like, contacts, disposable contacts.
Not
But
all
I'm
of
just
them.
saying.
Not all of them. Not all of them.
Well, I
Who?
personally always liked Courtney.
Who?
I thought she
Courtney
was
doesn't
the...
go through it like
Yeah,
that.
Courtney's the... But I
like
said
that.
this before we go on the air.
I can't
The
stand
reality is, and I don't care if nobody be honest but me, Chloe's always been the underdog. She,
Yeah.
out of the Kardashian clan, Chloe's always been the underdog.
Yeah.
So the likelihood of her finding somebody that she can just, finding that level of happiness.
Because she could have
But
made it
there's
with
a part of
Lamar.
me that feels like that's her own fault, because I feel like she's just trying to fulfill the life that her sisters have.
But people
and do
have...
it
Well, she's
next to
under that pressure, though.
But
I mean,
people have
she's still a
said
Kardashian.
that because of the way you get him is the way you lose him. And
How she got him?
and he was not single when she got him. He was his
Oh!
girlfriend, also named Jordan, oddly enough, was
Wait, do we
pregnant.
have receipts?
Yes, she was pregnant
Karma.
when they started dating. She was she was like, I think in her second trimester, and she's never said a
So this is
word. She's been a
God's-
class act. So she's quote unquote stole him from someone who he was procreating with.
Did you say procreating?
Because they're not married. So I
Did you say
mean,
procreating?
he had a girlfriend. She was pregnant. So now now he's gone, and now you're
Now, on the other hand, we can't say that these kind of whirlwind side piece affairs don't end well, because Alicia Keys proved us wrong on that one. Because she snatched up Swiss Beats, and they are living blissfully ever since then. And I will never forget the episode on Love and Hip Hop New York when they went to Swiss Beats' ex-wife's house, and they showed the house. The pool was nasty, wasn't no water in it. They had mosquitoes in it, and she was like, ever since he left us, I can't afford to maintain the lifestyle that we had.
Well,
I'll
listen.
never forget that episode.
Listen, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord.
Who?
Swiss Beats
Everything in the
ex-wife.
dark comes. You don't get away with
The
that.
one that Alicia took him
Oh,
from.
yeah.
She was on an episode of Loving Hip Hop New York some years ago, and I can't remember which one. It was the original crew. They went to the house, and it was terrible. And she was like, "Yeah, since he left us, this is kind of what it is." So we can't say that side pieces don't win.
Well,
I don't
you
co-sign
still
on it,
Give it time.
but I'm
it
not
depends on
saying
who we're talking about.
that side pieces aren't winning these days.
Kylie Jenner started out as Travis Scott's side piece because Kylie Jenner got Travis from her best friend, her ex-best friend, Justine Scott. So they're all just should get checked.
Really?
I think it's just weird though. Like,
Wait, Justin Scott?
and Alicia, I don't know.
Justine Scott.
I mean, if
Do you
somebody
think that
told
love
me-
just
tell you
works
about
like
it.
that? Like it just.
I don't think any of this is love. I think all this is.
Business.
We're talking about reality stars and athletes.
Well, Jordan just blew her business.
Yeah.
If
Oh
this was
please,
her business.
they'll forgive and forget soon enough. They'll
I
find
don't-
her
I
and
don't
they'll
know.
find
I mean,
I don't know.
Chloe another one.
This is pretty bad.
and
No, I'm
they'll
talking
move on.
about. Doesn't mean you can get back. Like they've X'd her from all ventures. They took her picture off the website.
She can't get away
They-
how Black
Her-
China
her
did.
They
makeup
kicked her
is
out. She was
discounted.
living with Kylie. She's moved out. She's living with her mother. And
Back to the bottom.
well, so she was never at the bottom per se. She comes from a wealthy family, not
Yeah.
Kardashian wealthy, but
Yeah.
wealthy enough to live in the same.
Oh, well, then I don't care.
But you're not going to be at that status where you were, so you did take it back down to bottom, though.
I don't
It's
care. I
just
thought
a-
I thought that this
Out
was
of all the people,
what?
no, you thought she was what going back to Compton?
Yeah, exactly. I thought,
If they were
to
friends-
Edgewood, Decatur,
Body
College Park.
Calabasas.
if they were friends from the jump, then she gotta have come from some kind of money.
yeah, but
Because if that's the case,
such
I'd
a
be friends
yeah,
with them.
yeah, but that's just a huge
Well, Kyle,
betrayal.
you're rich.
I'm
so
not
you could
rich.
be
Yeah, I was gonna
friends
say you
with
could be friends with
You
her.
could be
I'm
friends
not
with
rich.
rich.
All you got to do is just have that personality that appeals to certain people in the high business place. That's all you need. in
Or
order
you just
friends
have to
like
make
that.
them feel like you're a project that they
There's
can fix
just
up.
I was gonna say there's just a difference between wealth and celebrity. They're very different, and so I think celebrities have a very different.
It's like, oh, you're not looking for my money. You're not trying to get this. You're a genuine person of real interest. Oh, let's be friends.
It's more about
There you
appearance.
go.
It's more about appearance, I think. Like they take cute pictures together, so I think it's like, and I'm not even gonna put that on them because I think even just as a girl, I remember being in high school, people were friends with people who look like them or people that they wanted to look like. So
Were you a mean girl in high school?
I think it's kind of
like. I think you were a mean girl in high school. Like,
no, I went through a phase of bullying, and then I quit bullying people, and then
Wow.
I came
so
to
you were, oh,
for a very short amount of
was this
time.
after somebody stood up to you?
No. 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 I'm not gonna share.
There you go.
There's a hesitation though. She was like,
She's sitting on something.
There,
No,
okay,
it's just
that
not
was a
worth it.
body slow. And there you have it, folks. Simone,
just not worth it.
Simone was a bully.
No.
I'm so shocked.
No.
I'm
And
so shocked.
Remember, everyone who is a bully was probably bullied at some point and is just reacting.
That's what a bully says. That's exactly what a bully.
need
What
to
a
get
bully.
rid of
That's
torment
exactly what a
by
bully
putting it
says.
on other people.
That,
Why?
I was bullied, so that's what made me a bully. So two plus two is 4. Like so,
I
one
made-
bad apple deserves another bad apple.
No, I'm not justifying it. I did. In fact, I will share this. I made amends with somebody I felt very bad about for just I felt very bad. It was my senior year. I was like, we're about to go off in different directions. I called her up. I apologized. She forgave me. And
Yeah, but what did you do to her? Did you like put her head in the toilet?
no, it wasn't
Give her
like it wasn't
swirlies,
like
Fred a
that.
groomer?
But she went through a dark. I saw
Nipple twist.
next. I mean, I wasn't great to her, and I remember she went through a phase of she wore all black. She hung out with the theater kids, and they wore all black, and I think she went through a lot, and I took responsibility for it, and I apologized. You know.
If you think that's going to take down the fact you were a bully, that's not penance because you apologized to one of your
No.
many victims. That's not.
I'm not many.
You're
Hold
one of
on.
your many
I don't have
victims.
victims.
That's
okay?
not
I do not
penance.
have victims.
Like, if anything, you
you
have to go
were.
confess yourself to the Vatican or something. I might be
I
able
do
to
not.
forgive you, but I just see you as a little bully. I can
That's
see
just
it.
so. That's nonsense.
I
That's
can
total
see it.
nonsense.
I can actually see it. I'm just saying.
I was great in high school. I was great in middle school. I was wonderful in elementary school, and I still I would keep in touch if I was there. I just don't. I think we all go through our sort of little phases. It's just that for people that are this young, and I'm bringing this back to Kylie and Jordan away from all of us here because we are not the story here. I just feel like this is something that's a little bit different because they have a child together and this is like a family thing. You know what I mean? Like it's my sister. She's my blood. I don't know how I would
Girls
feel.
forgive.
But this isn't the first time
Girls
this happened.
forgive. You're probably the only human being I've ever heard say that in my life.
They're petty.
Girls forgive. Men forgive. You
We
know.
forget.
Oh, it's just hoes. You know what I mean? Men forgive. We forget.
We
Yeah.
forget.
Why I gotta be? What you
Right.
not say? Wait a minute. What you not about to do is depict us as some heartless creatures who just kind of
That's not
sweep
it's
stuff
not
under
heartless.
the rug.
It's the opposite. It's more like stuff
Vindictive.
happens. You know what I mean? Like, I forgive you.
So you
Whereas
don't think
girls
they'll
are
ever be
more
friends
like,
again?
No.
I don't think she'll ever be in again. I don't know if Kylie and her will ever make up like in some weird way, but I don't think she will ever be
They won't ever
on
be
the
as
yachts,
close.
on the islands,
We should,
with the entourage.
This
no.
should be an experiment. What we should do is go on boycott until they restore her back to the stuff that she was doing, just to see if we can prove
Why?
a point.
Why?
What?
Just see if we can prove a point.
There's another black friend in there. There's no need to do that, I don't think.
Yeah,
Oh, well, they got another.
So
She was
they-
already seen with like a Jordan Woods lookalike.
That is
Oh.
a lookalike?
Oh, see,
Looks
it's all
just
about
like
the
her.
appearance. Like, I want a friend that looks like this because
She
our
was light
pictures come out a
skinned,
certain way.
kind
I'm
of,
telling you.
chubby, kind of round.
Yeah, yeah.
Chubby.
Hollywood is amazing.
The girl's round.
I'm not gonna respond to that, so we're gonna go on a break. We're gonna take a break, and when we come back, we'll have more current events on Leadership Blend with your host, Ricardo D. Rice.
I want to stay south of the river with the chains and the gold. We could be out here together, but you have places to go. Watching the sunshine lace the gray. I don't know why you wouldn't stay. You should come south of the river where the loving is gold. You should come south of the river. This is where it all starts. I think that we could stay here forever, lie on the roof till it's dark. And when the last bus pulls away, I swear that I almost heard you say I should move south of the river. I want to get to know. I want to get to know.
got enough to love yourself. And it's hard trying to ease someone's pain when your own hurt is more than you can take. But how the hell can we be lovers if we don't even love each other? If we're down for one another, we gotta find a way to cover each other's backs instead of tracks. I wanna make you smile instead of make you mad, and I won't act like I'm all that. Cause if you left, I take you back. Cause I don't care what you done. I just know I won't show love. So
all right, everybody, welcome back to this Friday edition of the Leadership Blend with your host, Ricardo D. Rice, and my correspondent,
Simone Cherie.
Kyle Andrew.
And Shahid.
Okay, so Shahid, what do you have?
Well, pretty much today what I have is I'm going to be explaining the Momo challenge. I know most of everybody you've seen on the internet today, like, if you're not in the hip group, I'm not even saying in the hip group, but if you haven't seen it on the news, you haven't seen it, where it's like there's been recent pictures of like a weird bird-like humanoid creature floating through the internet where it's just like big gouging eyes, but it's pretty much like a Japanese sculpture or depiction of something of their culture or stuff like that. But pretty much it started out like, I don't know, it started out with some random teenagers just pretty much sending text messages to people through like WhatsApp, and just pretty much starting it out almost like a game where it's like, all right, play the game that Momo, the weird bird-like creature, shows upon you, and pretty much take these challenges that Momo's going to put onto you. If you take them, it's pretty much going to lead to suicide. And if you don't, then it's just like, all right, Momo, they say like, all right, Momo's going to come and get you or kill you pretty much. And after like, it started around like 2018, but it really started getting traction maybe around like, really more so like the beginning of like late February, right, early March 2019, only because right now a whole bunch of parents probably, like, they haven't figured out about it, where they've probably got wind of it just now, and they're just more like, oh, we're hoping that our kids aren't over here doing the challenges and stuff. But the problem is that like many people over here are saying like there haven't been really actual links to the actual like kids' death, or like there have been like kids over here dying, but it's just people over here just making news or just getting their information from other outsources and stuff like that through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, a whole lot of the other sites.
And YouTube, that was a major thing, because apparently YouTube has a division for kids. And this whole Momo challenge, which she looks like a bird, but she's still a human. So it's really creepy and really awkward. And it's like scaring, at the end of the day, it's scaring the kids as well. Because if you see this deformed creature, it's just like, okay. Because when I look at it, it looks kind of creepy. And I'm just like, okay, this is just, why are we doing this? I'm just convinced that people have too much free time. So now we're giving kids nightmares and not letting them sleep at night, because what? Like, what are we doing right now?
I think, go ahead. She, because it's your turn, I want to take it.
I mean, like, I was really going to say was just more for the fact of, like, the way that I just see this challenge go, it sort of reminds me of a weird, like, say, for example, like, someone probably read a horror movie and stuff like that, and they're just like, you know what? I want to see where I could take this. Probably saw the picture of the bird, too, and just thinking, like, all right, what could probably happen with it? But knowing how today is, and knowing that you have, like, many different people under, like, all right, whether it be YouTube, Reddit, or 4chan, or some of these other sites where it's like, all right, they can make a picture or start, like, a trending topic overnight, and people just take this idea and run with it. And it's just like, we really have to just think about, like, dang, like, are we really, like, just like Ricardo said, do we really have that much free time, or just really have these thoughts where it's like we can just put them out, like, do these weird things and stuff like that? And for what reason? Like, what do we get out of all this?
There's dark corners of the internet, man. And I just feel like this is one of those, this is one of the dark corners of the internet. Have you ever seen, like, the dark corners of YouTube? Like the dark side of YouTube. Like there's some
dark web, but I never gone.
Right. Well, there's some weird stuff on some of these platforms, and I just think the reason why I could understand why it was viral, even though they're now calling it a hoax, is that we can't really put this past people to do. Like, I would not be surprised. At the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if there was like a growing number of suicides because of this. That would not be shocking to me.
I mean, it's creepy. The figure is very creepy because it's clearly a woman, but her eyes are all bugged out. Yeah. And I saw a full picture. She has like a
it's like a chicken-like body.
Yeah, so it's really creepy and it's kind of disgusting.
I think it's a joke gone too far, because I think it's actually kind of funny. But I'm a prankster. I like to play jokes on people.
On kids?
No,
about suicide?
You're going to
not about suicide. Not about suicide.
Well, we talking about that.
That's what I said. I think they took it too far. But I play little jokes on my little cousins all the time. Like I pop out behind walls. Sometimes little Snapchat filters.
You ain't popping up on me. People joked about the fact that like Peppa Pig and other little kid characters were being covered with Momo, like and sent around. So parents were freaking out that like, what is this? That's like taking over, my kid's normal daytime television that I consider very safe.
It's the ideology of not knowing. Like they interviewed one lady and her kid had his little computer. And he's playing on it, and then this Momo thing pops up, and the kid gets like outrageously scared. She's like, "What's wrong?" And then she sees this bird-like creature on his computer. She's like, "Is nothing sacred or safe anymore?"
It almost seems like an ISIS sort of thing, where it's like so it hasn't been proven to quote unquote be the reason for any suicides, but there are suicides that happen. There was like a 15-year-old out of San Antonio that this was first linked to, where it's almost like they come out and say Momo did it, type of a thing, where it's not corroborated. But when somebody's committed suicide, when somebody's dead, police do investigate. They do launch it, they do their due diligence. And so while there's all that speculation going on, people are like, oh my God, there's kids being killed, kids are keeling over. There's in Russia. There was another incident in Ireland. This is, I think, where they said a lot of this first started.
Oh, yeah.
It's hackers, basically.
Plus the problem they say is like, how you're dealing with children. And children, like, at a certain age, they can't really differentiate, all right, this is reality and this is just make-believe. Like, Momo's over here is just a fictitious creature of the internet. Like, he or she is not going to come out and get you. But the problem is like, oh, you're already in this challenge, and hey, every year now we need a challenge, or I don't know why, for some reason, and it's not even the type of challenges that people need and whatnot. But
look, anything to get us away from that Tide ball eating thing they started, where they want to eat little Tide balls.
Oh, yeah.
Oh God!
I can live. I don't.
Did you eat a ball?
I would like to say that was not our generation. That was Generation Z. That was not the.
That's not us.
Oh, y'all co-signed on it.
We never did it. We looked
So that
down
was that
on
next
that.
one?
We did the cinnamon challenge.
Yes.
The what?
Can you
The
explain?
cinnamon challenge.
Yes.
It's like you just take a
eat
tablespoon
cinnamon
of cinnamon and you
and
put
try
it
to
in your mouth
swallow it.
and you hold it in your mouth as long as possible. Some people swallowed it. And then you would, eventually spit it out, and you would be gasping for air.
Yeah.
Oh, that
okay,
sounds
fun.
that sounds a lot better than you eating a Tide ball. That's a whole world of difference there.
there
World
was
of difference.
There was the Tide ball challenge. There was a condom challenge. I don't know why it was.
What was the condom challenge?
I don't know what it was. I just saw it on the internet, and
Don't say that if you can't explain it, because now
Yeah, I
I'm
know,
really
right?
wondering what that is.
Like, now Simone go look it up because she
I'm
loves
gonna
to
have
look
to.
up stuff.
What's a condom challenge? Well, Lord, please don't.
The
do
point
that.
is, my generation, we had to get a job challenge.
It's not about
Or get a
sex.
paycheck challenge. Y'all would eat Tide balls and eat cinnamon.
Oh,
out of,
no,
or
I
naked,
remember.
naked
I remember.
cinnamon.
I remember the condom challenge.
It's not about
Condom-
sex.
You would fill up a condom with. I never did this. You would fill up a condom with a bunch of water, and then you have somebody drop it on your head, and it would either bust or you would either it would either stick on your head, and you would just have like this
Suffocate.
plastic ball on your head like such.
Here's the
It's
thing.
nonsense.
Here's the thing, and here's what I do want to say about this, and I know this is very serious, but I do believe that there's a growing culture of just suicidal / homicidal glamorization and romanticization that this plays off of, because people are just very much, I think, just disillusioned. Like, there's all these apps. The number one theme of apps in 2018 was wellness apps, like the mindfulness app or the Calm app, places that you can like get a therapist on chat, like back and forth. You pay $20 a month, you have a constant therapist. There's a suicide. Yes, there's
What
a
is the name of
suicide.
that?
I think it's called Care.
Get my sister that app because she dropped me a ball.
Look, it BetterHelp. BetterHelp is one. There's Talkspace, which is the one that's got the subscription. But
How do we know those are real psychologists and it's not just
they
Joe
are
Blow around
they
the
are
corner?
they are they're either psychologists, maybe it's they're mental health counselors, maybe they're just certified, behavioral specialists, things like that. But I think because of all of this, I think this is also kind of an onset of the fact that people are consuming so much, and a lot of it is just very depressing, like the dark corners of the web, et cetera, where people just get together and talk about depression. There was mental health experts said that a lot of the like news coverage and all the hysteria can inspire people in a negative way. Like, there are people who are stable mentally, and so they see that kind of stuff and they think nothing, and there are people who are vulnerable, and that's just what they needed to do something really bad. There's two 12-year-olds in Wisconsin that reportedly stabbed their best friend to death, claiming that they did so because of the fictional internet boogeyman called the Slender Man, who was also the
That was a
character
movie,
of
wasn't it? That
it
was
was
a
a horror
movie.
movie as well. And hence the film. But I'm just saying, like, people are very impressionable, and that's why I believe critical thinking is becoming so important. We were talking about this when you were away, that like I took critical thinking courses in college. I think those should be mandatory at a primary level, because I just think people are highly impressionable nowadays. Have you seen 13 Reasons Why on Netflix?
That's just such an
I started
annoying
watching
show.
it. I just wasn't bowled over with
What's
it.
that show about?
It's about a girl
It's a
complaining that
series.
nobody treated her right before she killed herself.
And then she
Oh.
leaves like
Well, now that is a
clues.
judgment call.
Oh, so that's it.
I don't know.
It was about
it was
a
very whiny to me.
Whoa, how insensitive. I mean, that's a common perspective, but it's a series that follows the story of a girl who is dead.
And then she leaves
And
like clues.
why?
And
She left clues. There was about
Oh.
12 or 13 people responsible.
Well, honey, if you was gonna leave all them clues, you could have had a conversation with everybody.
Yeah, I mean, communication.
She was the victim
saying.
of
Could
rape.
have just sat down and talked to everybody.
She was a
If
victim
you
of
gonna leave
rape.
notes and make them go all over town to find them, you
She
could
was
have had
a
the
victim
conversation with
of
them.
rape. She was a victim of bullying. People put slut and things like that on her locker. She was raped at a party. Nobody knew her. Nobody cared, etc. It was actually, let's not minimize what happened to her,
Yeah.
despite the fact that we watched, it was an entire series dedicated to it, too. There's a second season.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna condone
But-
the fact that you
but-
would leave,
but
leave
the point
clues
is-
and send everybody on a wild goose chase around town. You could have just had a conversation with them and say, "Hey, this is what it is,
I
bro."
refuse
Like,
no one's gonna know
to
unless
say
you
that.
I'm just
address
saying.
it.
We all have our own opinions. Those opinions are not tied to one another. We're all acting as independent agents here. What I will say is, I think that there is something to be said about not glamorization, but numbness. We become numb when we're exposed to things. And so I think a lot of times, like the creators of Netflix were accused of glamorizing suicide, which, by the way, well, I'll come back to that. But they essentially said we're not trying to glamorize it. We're trying to show it. We're trying to tell a story. But unfortunately, when people see things enough, they become numb to it. And so it only has to become numb, and then it does become attractive. Like, it's like a slippery slope, the way that works. And they actually, the Netflix creator said that they wanted the suicide scene to be very realistic. I gasped. It was very visceral to watch.
Wait, what episode was that? Because I
It was the
watched
final episode of the first
Oh.
season.
Yeah.
They got a second season.
Yeah, second season now, which is about the court case, and they're trying to bring people to justice for the rape and et cetera. But yeah, it was a nasty scene. And they said that that's why they wanted to do it that way, so that people would not think that it was some sort of glamorous, peaceful thing. That it's painful to die. It's not a fun
Can you
thing.
depict this scene? Because I stopped watching it midway through the first season because I got annoyed with it. But I heard that that it was a very
Every time I
dramatic
quit
episode.
on a series, I watch the final episode if it's available.
That's
Why?
But just like with the book, if I'm about to quit on the book, I'm going to read the last chapter.
Why?
Because I want to know what it said. I
It
mean, I want to
ruins
sit
all-
through the whole thing, but I want to know what it said. If I'm over it, like if I watch the first episode and I'm like, I'm going to watch the last one before I quit, just so I can say, okay, this is what happened.
You are such an enigma wrapped in a puzzle.
Who doesn't?
wrapped
I
in
mean,
What?
and a maze.
that's like
I don't-
fast forwarding something to the end, just to be
Oh,
like,
you mean
okay.
like spoiler
Yeah, but
alerts?
if I stop
I
watching
ain't gonna lie,
something
slick.
and I
Yeah,
get,
yeah.
Slick.
but if I stop watching something, I get compelled enough to go back and watch it. If I've already watched,
I
the
check
ending, I'm
out
not gonna watch
spoilers.
it.
I check out spoilers. I will even read a blog and
I mean,
see
it's
what
not like it's
happened.
gonna
Go to
really spoil
Wikipedia, Rotten Tomatoes, because I want answers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just done with wasting, spending my time. So no, she slit her wrist in the bathtub, and it was very nasty. Yes, I'm sorry.
Then
He-
whisper it to him. Don't tell him out loud. I told you I wasn't impressed with it, but I just
so
said if I
spoil
get
the-
compelled enough, I would go back and watch it. Well, if
Watch
I already
it.
know the ending, I don't want to watch
It's a
it.
moral of a story. Watch it. It's a moral
I mean,
of a
it's
story.
not like it's gonna stop you from the experience that you're gonna have
Yeah, just
watching
put
the whole
yourself
thing.
back
Because
there.
the whole time it's okay. So it's just like when I watched the rap game. So those who don't know, the rap game is Jermaine Dupri trying to find like the next so deaf artist, young artist. So the people
yeah.
that are on the show are like less than 15.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the finale. So the whole time I've been watching the season, I'm like, okay, so we just watch this out of formality because I already know who the top
But that
three
is
are.
totally different.
Because I went to the thing. No, it's not.
It
The
is.
point is, if you tell me the end, I'm not inclined to even want to watch the process.
Here's the thing. So the series was not about, how did she kill herself? That was not what you're supposed to be asking yourself during the series. You're supposed to be asking yourself, why? Why did this happen? So if all you were waiting to do was to see it, I mean, I didn't even know they were going to show it. Like I said, I was thoroughly shocked. But this came up to me as a topic of interest about whether or not we can help people with. Do people need to think more critically? Do you think that's what it is? Do you think it's social media's fault? Like Facebook and all these other platforms are always under fire because they're spreading all the stuff that we're creating. And I just feel like, how do you help young people, or how do you even help yourself if we just don't think, or if we just consume everything and take it so seriously?
I think it's important to, because we get so caught up in our own lives. I think it's important to reach out to like our friends and our family just to make sure that they're okay. Because thinking back on Mac Miller, he was
Right.
like, I was listening to the Internet's podcast on Apple Music, and they were saying that he was always hitting people up asking, "You want to hang out today?" And they'd be like, "No, I'm busy." And he was just like he loved being around people, but sometimes he would get lonely. And they knew he was like incredibly depressed, and they were shocked when they found out that he committed suicide the way that he did, or he overdosed.
I was gonna say, have they called it a suicide or an accident? Because
Let me
Fentanyl.
see.
He had
I
like
don't know.
like he had a drug overdose with fentanyl and some like pills, Xanax with fentanyl in it.
I know he overdosed because he was a user, but that doesn't mean that he wanted to kill himself.
It was just like because the thing with Mac with his music, because every now and then, especially when his death did come along, it did take me by storm. Especially like me being an avid fan of him, because he would have like some dark, introspective songs where it's like, oh, all right, he's really asking himself like, oh, where he's at, or like his care within himself, and then just like, oh, should I really start doing all these drugs and just be more attentive to my self-care and stuff like that, and open up my mentality? Because where he came off with his drug use and his depression came off from like how he would perceive life or how it would come off to him and stuff like that. And I feel like, to me, when it comes to the whole situation of like, all right, everybody out here is being all depressed, and then like the news media isn't making it any better, because every now and then you go over here and you see a death, and that is numbing people, because nowadays people are just like, yo, the world is so disappointing. And then you have Donald Trump over here making the world even more, giving the people more of a negative and spitefulness. So it's like, yo, you know what? Why do I need to care no more?
Right.
Like, shut it all off. I don't care about depression. I don't care about hitting people up. I don't care about this. And it's my life at this point. So it's like, let me at least block everything out and whatnot. And that what causes people to be like, oh, isolated. I don't care no more. And then it's just like, oh, then your homeboy dies, and you're like, oh, how did this happen? It's only because the negativity just spread it around and whatnot.
Yeah. There's a mass shooting every other month.
They ruled it an accidental drug overdose.
Right. I figured that, because I think I remember Sid, she gave an interview, talked about that. She was like, she's like, I want this to be very clear. He did not come. He was happy. But Chester Bennington from Lincoln Park, when he committed suicide and when he hung himself, his wife mentioned that he seemed very happy, which, I mean, there's all these different sorts of signals. You can go to the National Suicide Prevention Association website, and they talk about signals and things to look for. And they talk about like kind of someone seeming happy before something like this happens. And sometimes it's that, somebody's depressed, or, they're going through things. And so when they seem down, that's when people are usually the most concerned, and like, they cover them and they're all over them. But, sometimes when someone has made up their mind like that, they actually seem to have a lot more peace. And that's exactly how his wife described him as being before he died. So I think there's something to be said about like negativity and dark culture to a certain extent. Shahid and I were talking about this artist named Billie Eilish, who I have been listening to nonstop for like the last 3 months.
I think you about to say Billy Ocean. I about to say Billy Ocean. Yes, Caribbean Queen.
Wait, is he still
No.
alive?
I don't. That's a very good question. Does anybody know if Billy Ocean's still alive? If somebody check on Billy,
Nah.
kind of look it up. Billy,
No.
see if Billy Ocean's still alive. Yeah, look, Gladys still alive.
Look, so
And
Billie,
so is Patty.
I just want to.
So
I'll
is
just say
Betty
that
White.
Billie Eilish is openly depressed, and a lot of her songs are very dark. I love her to death. I feel like my neutral place I'm at a very happy place. I've always been a relative, which is why I make a lot of dark jokes and dark comments and watch some dark films. I feel like I'm pretty immune to it.
I thought because you was a bully, but okay.
Billy Ocean is still living. He's 69.
Yes, Billy Ocean, Caribbean Queen. See, I told you they live longer than we do, because they eat bacon and they eat sausage, and y'all around here eating salads and kale, and y'all dropping dead. I'm just saying.
No.
There's enough bacon in the world for everybody.
But
I
I'm not
just
gonna
want to put
lie.
that out there.
I think the other reason for the whole depressed culture too, to a certain extent, is I guess it's really because of the more technology and how we're moving in a fast pace. When you think about it, because I feel like, say for example, when people over here, like when you have everything handed to you in life, and you have no real challenges, henceforth some of the other challenges that people make for themselves and get them into stupid predicaments that they're in, it causes these people to like, yo, you have no ambition. So you're just sitting over here in a stagnant place. So you feel like, and then sometimes when you're in a stagnant place, whether you be comfortable or you're just like, all right, you're just there, you just sort of give up. You're just like, what's the point? Why do I go on forward? Like,
Well, I think it's a combination of a lot of different things. Technology plays a very big hand in it, because, and I say this all the time, when I'm at work, my phone is going off, I swear, 15 times an hour. And I'm like, I'm thinking this text message is actually alerts from CNN, from NPR, from, I have 3. CNN, APR, AJC. So I'm constantly getting stuff, and half is not even local. Most of it's global, most of it's international. So if you're not careful, you get this painted perception that everything in the world is just bad. Because you think about it on a local level, and then when you're constantly getting these feeds from an international and a global level, you're just like, well, good God, is there anything good going on in the world? It can be fastly become your perception that there's nothing in the world worth living for. Now, I personally believe that family is very important in those kinds of things, but I'm also learning that, the family dynamic has changed. So, whereas I can call an aunt of an aunt of an aunt, or an uncle of an uncle of an uncle, or if I can't find any of them, I got extended family, then I can pick up the phone and call. So, and then also, I like this hashtag that says check on your strong friends. And I used this when I had the previous set of interns that was on here. And I was like, now think about it. Because everybody goes, oh, my God, I wish Ricardo would have called me. And, think about it. I'm some of y'all boss. If I were to call y'all and start talking off the top of my head, you'd be like, oh, my God, what's wrong with Ricardo? Like, I don't even know how to respond to this because I'm not even used to seeing him in this light. So what am I supposed to say? Like, what am I supposed to do? That's how we view our strong friends. So it's like if one of your very strong friends calls you and they're off the meter, you're just like, I don't even know what to do because I'm not used to seeing them. Usually I call you for advice. So what am I supposed to do in this scenario? And I tell you, you got to think about that. Your strong friends, we get weak too. Human. I think about Whitney Houston, which time I want to run to you. I turn the key. There's nobody there but me. Sometimes I have those moments. I live alone. And I love that song. Huh?
You said by choice. You said you would.
Yeah, but I don't always feel like that. I mean, there's those times I'm like, I would like turn the key and to come home and somebody's there to rub my feet or
you
give me a massage.
You just need a boo thing. Get you a.
Yeah, that's the dating
situation.
scene in Atlanta is atrocious. And sometimes, I value that song. That's one of my favorite Whitney Houston songs. I Want to Run to You. It almost put me in tears every time I hear it. But I like that. I don't know if y'all laugh for it's actually real. See, y'all think it's funny. I'm pouring out my heart right now on stage. I could be suicidal. And y'all think it's funny because I'm one of y'all strong friends.
No.
This is what I'm talking about.
See, I'm the one not laughing right now.
Everybody here, this is exactly what I'm talking about. I'm pouring my life out.
Simone is
and
red
then laughing.
right now.
Exactly. Simone is actually red. I'm pouring my life out right now. I could be suicidal.
She's used to all this dark commentary.
I'm just saying, I could be pouring my heart out right now.
Okay.
And, but this is what I'm talking about. Y'all and y'all strong friends, y'all always feel like we have all the answers and we don't have our moments.
No, because in my group, group of friends, I consider myself to be the strong friend because everybody's always calling me. I don't talk about my problems. I just kind of go through it and then I tell you about it when I've gone through it.
That's the vulnerable person to me.
What?
Not the strong person, but people who don't talk about their problems, people who are pent up or people who are secretive or...
We don't want to share.
Those, I think, are the juggernauts because it goes somewhere. And if it's not coming out, it's just imploded. Like, that's more dangerous to me than people who are...
I mean, you might be right. They tell me I should, express myself more.
If you go through
you are hard
stuff,
to read
especially.
Sometimes.
Thank you.
I think so, too.
That's not a good thing.
When's your birthday?
January 6th. I'm a Capricorn.
Okay. Yes, well... So
that's not a good
That's a whole other subject.
Yeah,
I can talk about astrology all day. That's a whole other subject.
There's
a small area of
level
expertise.
of vulnerability that every individual should have. There's a certain level of vulnerability everybody should have, whether it be business, there's always
because it's about honesty.
Exactly. There's always a space for authenticity. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying you got to wear your heart on your sleeves, but I'm just saying it shouldn't be a situation where nobody ever knows what's going on. Now, granted, I have a plethora of associates. I have very few friends, but I have those friends that if things get really bad, I can pick up the phone and be like, okay, look, you need to come over because right about now I'm about ready to bust a few caps and split some wigs. So we need to talk. But I do have that select couple of people. And then you also have the rest, you can't do it to everybody. Because like I said, I would call you and have a conversation about stuff that go in my personal life. Because again, you'd be like, I don't know what this
Yeah.
is. This Ricardo? I don't know what to say.
But an outlet for me, I write. Like when I get frustrated or when I get angry, I write. It's a journal.
Oh, I used to do that until somebody found my journal and all my
Don't worry him. That's his place of solace.
No, I'm not worried.
I'm just telling you.
If you find it, that means you weren't where you were supposed to be anyway.
I don't care about it. It's about to fall out. But I had to burn mine because I was scared it was going to fall into the wrong hands. I had to burn mine.
So, and mine have before. Psychology Today says that it's 33% that depression is up, like clinical depression. And my question is, are we is it the chicken or the egg? Like, are we chasing the problem or are we creating the problem more so? Because I really do believe there's something to be said about labels and identification and whatever is put onto you, I do believe can become your reality. And so I think we also kind of over medicalize in our society. I've heard people, we throw around a lot of terms all the time. I'm not saying things aren't real, but a lot of times we say, I got anxiety, I got mad anxiety.
Or I have depression.
Right, I have depression, or I have this, or I have that, or I am this, or I am that. And I do think that really can contribute to how real that becomes for you, especially if you're a teenager, because you're still determining who that's going to be. Mm-hmm. So if you start taking anti-anxiety medication in high school, by the time you're in grad school, you could be 3 sheets. You could need something stronger. So I do think there's something to be said about when you start diagnosing people.
But that's part of the problem, though, because it's like we live in such a society where people are constantly trying to top the next person. Mm-hmm. So it's so hard to decipher, and we talk about this all the time.
But isn't this a medical community thing? Isn't this something? Aren't they kind of responsible for this as well? If you're talking to a 16-year-old and they've lost a parent or something, and then you diagnose them as depressed, it's no, No, they lost their parent. They don't need to be on medication. They don't need to see, like, they're
Yeah,
going
but it
through
depends.
something.
I mean, that depression is that strong, and I just feel like you shouldn't be able to write a prescription unless you run some form of test. Because they say depression is supposed to be a chemical imbalance.
But a
So
lot of
if
these
you're
tests
not,
are
if you
just
haven't run
surveys,
that
though.
test, and you can't show me some numbers that say that your number should be, your depression number is 50. You're at 32. So we might need to pop you some pills.
So how do
But
they
still.
measure depression?
I have
How
no
do they?
idea.
But there's
determine
a lot
somebody
of
is
assessments that are surveys. Have you been feeling this? Have you
Yeah, I
had
think
trouble
it's more
sleeping? Have you done this?
It's more qualitative versus quantitative. Meaning it's not something you can slap a number on. It's more of a, like
How
you
you
said,
feeling?
how do you feel? Is this what you do? It's more qualitative. And qualitative is like great to me, which I hate great.
Yeah.
But even still, like, if you really think about it, if this person has lost someone and that's why they're in front of you, and you give them a medication, what do you think the effects of that could be? Like, now I'm here, and now I take a medication. Now I'm here. How long is it going to take before they're dependent on that medication before they don't need? You know what I mean?
But it all depends on the person's psyche and like how they're mentally active with. I mean, like not mentally active, like their mentality with it.
Yeah.
Where it's like, say for example, like with people nowadays, especially like say for example, even some of my friends, where it's like, all right, in this era of like, either you're diagnosing yourself with medications or just like, all right, you're just trying to find a way to relieve that depression. Everybody would always go back and be like, the main question is like, why am I like this? Why did I act upon this? Am I going for the drug? Like, say for example, like people with Xanax and stuff like that. Like they're taking Xanax to like
That's a
either
popular one.
either to make them feel more excited or just to numb them out. It's like, why did you take the Xanax? Because obviously enough, like you weren't really addicted to this. You just took this because you felt down one day and
Right.
you liked how it made you feel and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And you could have the same feeling as you were on the Xanax if you were sober, but you just decided to take this pill in order
Yeah.
to get to that place.
Yeah, and that's why I feel like you should never take drugs to feel better. Take drugs to feel even better. Never drink or take drugs. I'm serious.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Yes.
No, listen to what you
Yeah.
just said. Say that
Yeah.
again.
Never take drugs to feel better. Take drugs to feel even better.
That's why people take drugs, so they can
No,
feel even better.
no.
That's exactly
No,
why
you're
people take
missing
drugs,
it. You're
so they can
missing
feel even
it.
better.
You're missing it. What I mean is,
But your wording sucks.
don't ever be down and take something. Only take something when you're at neutral or happy.
That's when you shouldn't be taking anything.
No, I'm saying if you're gonna take something when you're neutral
Your
or
logic is
happy.
not
It's the
Earth
truth
logic.
because if you're down and you take something,
Then
you're
it'll
on
put
a
you at
you're
average. I did.
no,
You're
you're on your
down,
way. You're on your way.
medication will put you at average.
That's bad though.
So
That's bad.
if you are going through a divorce, if you've lost somebody, then she's saying don't drink. But if
Right.
you're celebrating something,
Yes, then
have
drink
a
away.
drink.
Pop
Exactly.
a.
Two pinheads.
I'm telling you from my experience, you got to know who you are, the
Okay,
type of
we've talked
person
about
you
this. You're
are.
not the status quo. We've talked about this. You're like
No,
a
I'm
unicorn.
that kind of person. That's what I'm saying. Like my wife is somebody who, like, when she got the pain prescription, she was like, no, I don't need that. I don't need that. I need to heal. This is what I need. She's very disciplined. She's very focused. She's Capricorn. She's like, she can manage herself. I'm the type of person, if you give me something and I like it, I'm on my way. So I have to be far more like, I can't be moderate. I can't touch it. You can't put
I'm
it
like,
around
oh
me.
my God.
I will pop it.
Like,
I will
I
pop
have
it
to-
if you give it to
my
me.
ideology
Especially the
is-
smiley faces they put on it. So no.
Oh my God. I don't even know.
You gotta know yourself and, like, treat yourself accordingly. So that's all I'm saying.
I don't even want to comment on this. We're going to take a break, and when we come back,
I'm done.
we have more of this and current events. So stick around with the Leadership Dinner with your host, Ricardo Rice. You and my correspondents.
Simone Cherie.
Kyle Andrew.
And Shahid.
I thought I was gonna finish this mint before we came back on break, but clearly I did not. That's why it sounds like I have a list. I'm not mocking anybody. I just want to put that out there.
That's a laugh, Ricardo. What?
I'm just saying.
You
I
had me
wanna-
dying. I'm sorry. I hope you're okay. We
No,
need to check on
you
more
don't care if
often.
I'm okay. I was crying my heart out to you, and I could have been clinically depressed, and you over here having a field day turning red about it, and you still
It was the
doing
way
it.
you put it. It was the way you put it. So I hope I'm gonna check on you more often. I really am gonna check on you. Make sure you're all right.
Don't
Make
do
sure.
Don't do me no favors.
No, it's not a
you
favor.
probably
I'm,
call me
I'm
and laugh. I
serious
can't
because
even-
now this is gonna replay in my mind if you were to end up somewhere.
What? Look, I will openly admit that when I hear Whitney Houston, I want to run to you. Like it hit me. Like when she was like, I know that when you look at me, which actually now that I think about the words to that song, I wonder if Whitney was crying out for help then. Because the words say, I know that when you look at me, there's so much that you don't see. But if you would take the time, if you only take the time, I know in my heart you'll find. And then she said, all girls scared sometimes, who isn't always strong. Can't you see the hurt in me? I feel so all alone.
Yeah.
Wow, that sounds like a cry for help.
Yeah, we could have known, but we would never thought about it until it hit.
Well, she had Kevin Costner at that. That was on the Bodyguard soundtrack, so she shouldn't have been all alone.
That
He
was a
guarding
long
her.
time. That was a long time before her
I
accident.
never even thought about that.
But I mean, the question
That
is,
song is Shirley Murdoch's, what's that song?
Wait.
My world came to an end. Then you
Jesus.
came back again. Now I know. I can't remember the word.
At
What's
least
the name
those are
the
kind
song?
of relatively hopeful.
Well, it's about a side piece. But,
Oh.
yeah, it's about a side piece.
Billie Eilish's new song is called "Bury a Friend," and it's "I Wanna End Me, I Wanna End Me," and it has a really great beat in the background. And
I'm not listening to the
impressive.
song.
she has other songs that reference not mass shootings, but like killing all of her friends and stuff like that.
wow, that's
but-
really dark.
It is dark, but the beats, man, the beats, like the beats are so real.
But I've learned you have to be careful because the beats will get you. But I listened to a song the other day by Mac Ayres. Actually, really good music. But he has a song called "I Get So Lonely," and I'm listening to it and I love the way the vibe. And I was like, wait, now all of a sudden I feel real lonely. And then I realized the words. He's like the chorus keeps saying, "I get so lonely, I get so
Makes you
lonely."
subconsciously.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
I was just
man.
like, why am I all of a sudden feeling so lonely?
Gotta protect your ear gate.
Well, there's a song by Trey Songz that's called Yes, and it's an acronym for You Ain't.
Yeah.
And I had to stop listening. I was like, why am I? The beat is nice, but I was like, the words,
Oh.
the girls tell him you ain't. And I was like, why would you write a song like this?
Well, he may
Like,
not
and you're
be.
playing it, and it's getting to your self-conscious. Next thing you'll be like, you know what? I really ain't worth a cuss.
Yeah.
We gotta be careful with these words, people. We gotta be careful with the stuff we listen to.
Wow.
So,
But I want to segue. All right, so in the last couple of weeks, I think you missed all the shows where we got into it about blackface and
Oh.
politicians. They're going through their yearbooks and finding them doing blackface and all that stuff. What's your opinion on that? Before I give mine, because remember they found the senators and stuff.
The
when they
governor,
went through
Governor Northam in
yeah, they
Virginia
went through all this
was
stuff about
found.
that blackface. What's your opinion?
This seems to be very common, far more common than I thought it was for my fellow Americans, white Americans actually.
Well, it was Governor Ralph Northam and Attorney General Mark Herring.
Yes, But
Admitted to wearing blackface.
they also found it with Jimmy Fallon.
What?
Not surprised.
They found it with 3 comedians. They found it with Sarah Silverman and one other comedian. They found more brown face per se. So it was like they were actually trying to realistically depict somebody in some type of a skit.
But
And
I mean-
Nick Cannon retweeted that and made it go viral the same week that the Governor Northam incident happened. Like I said, I obviously feel like when we talked about Megyn Kelly, I talked about this a little bit because I do think that to a certain extent, no, in large part, you don't need to change your skin to act out a black character. You don't need to do that. You just don't. I don't care who it is. Like, there's other things to the costume than skin. I don't believe it goes both ways. That was a question that came up. Like, is whiteface acceptable? Are the
Who does whiteface?
white girls,
like-
white chicks? I mean, excuse me,
Oh,
that
yeah.
film.
That's like a
Um,
very
That's what
isolated
we-
incident.
I
That's
mean-
our turn. And like, say for example, like how they have blackface to depict us. I mean, we do that, but it's just that in our perspective, we just feel more validated because we're the culture of submiss. We're the ones that were being objected and all that other stuff. So it's like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
we get that privilege, so we could do whiteface, and no one's gonna be able.
Whiteface didn't come from a place of hate. Whiteface was white chicks came. That was a comedy. We were making fun of white people.
I mean,
but,
so like I said, I agree.
you know what I'm saying? They weren't making fun of us. They were depicting us in a light that we weren't.
Yeah,
It kind of means it's like a
to
play
me,
on
there's
words.
But I
something.
mean, we're doing the same thing though. Like when we really think about it, though.
Exactly, like it's a play on words. You can't say, "Oh, we're just mimicking white folks."
I
They were just
do-
mimicking black folks.
I do listen to it though. Like I listen to. Well, I care about the context because the Governor Northam photo where there's a Klansman clearly dressed in full Klan garb versus just a blackface Sambo character.
But
Like,
here's my
that is
thing on it, though.
indisputably unacceptable.
But
That's
here's my
different than-
thing: you were at one point segregation was legal. So if you go back through all these older Caucasian people stuff, you're gonna find this. It was legal.
I still can't believe how many of them though. Like I really can't.
It was legal.
But-
it was a
but-
whole culture that they
but
did.
It
aren't
wasn't
they? But
the
they're still
no-no.
here. They're still here. That's the thing.
Yeah, but
It's
are we
gonna
saying
show
that? But
a
my
lot.
question was, are we saying that people can't change? That was in a whole different era when they were doing that. It was
Oh, well, I
actually
don't-
legal.
I don't know.
I
So
was
are we saying that
actually,
people can't change?
The
I don't
Wizard of
think how
Oz
much
used to
you
be
can
one of my favorite movies when I was a kid. And
What is it?
The Wizard of Oz.
Oh yeah.
And Judy Garland, who played Dorothy, I just found out that she used to do blackface, but that was the era. So
If you go through all these older Caucasian stuff, your yearbooks and stuff, you gonna find it. I'll be
They
highly
should say
surprised.
that, and
she's-
then
It was
they
decades
should
ago.
warn us. Like,
Even
by
though-
the way,
But let's be-
I'd be shocked.
No, but I blame this new culture for wanting to dig up everything they can find. That's a whole different
I
thing
mean,
between a
this is-
vetting process and you just being nosy and just digging through some stuff.
I
Come on,
mean,
people.
let's all be real. I mean, racism just ended like how long ago? Like the civil rights era was
hasn't,
like 50.
but you mean
like,
segregation.
Yeah, it was like 50 years ago, like 50, 60 years ago. This thing just passed. So I mean, we can't expect everything to be like everyone's thinking like, okay, just because now like we live in a more modern society, just because we left out like 6 decades ago or something like, oh,
It
we're
doesn't
not-
erase the past.
Yeah, it's like it's still there, and if
But I
anything,
can't
it's just
Because
like,
if you were to go through my 20s, which I'm
What do you
still
have?
praying,
What do you
I'm
have?
still praying that a lot of that stuff, thank God, before social media. But if you dig far enough, you can find enough skeletons in my closet. And trust me, you can put all them skeletons together and make you a walking person.
and plus, for
I don't particularly, I keep saying I'm going to be rich before the year's out. I don't want people going back through my stuff.
Plus, I mean, the way that I think about it is like this. I mean, look, you have the internet, and nowadays we all post up things. Eventually, people are going to find things, or we're going to learn about each other. If it wasn't going to be the internet, it was going to be through communications and how you know about the person and whatnot. So it's like we're all prone to our fallacies. So
But
at
there's
the same-
more to it than like it's in the Governor Northam case. There's the medical school, which I'm like, what kind of yearbook pictures are they publishing? These are future doctors. Like, why are you posting those sorts of pictures? I thought you were
Clubs
going to
and
post
organizations
People are stupid.
that do crazy things.
At
Especially
medical
they were
school
frat
level?
boys.
I thought that was
could've
insane.
been
To
drunk.
me, it was like it was the school,
Show no
it was the
excuse.
governor, it was whoever his amigo was. To me, it was all of them, but especially the school and the institution, because in the institution, it's like you get taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, but if they're doing it in a frat house off campus, how do
But
you
they took a
control that?
picture and memorialized it in the yearbook. To me, it's just like this is a medical institution, and this is what you're memorializing.
I'm surprised.
Not
you
some next great
segue.
breakthrough in cancer research, but this.
Who says they can't do both? Doctors don't sit in the classroom 24 hours. That's not. Come on, you're not being fair. Doctors don't
It's a
sit in
yearbook.
classrooms.
To me, that's different than like someone doing that on their
You
own
have a yearbook?
time. Yeah, I have yearbooks.
Did you take pictures in
Yeah,
it?
but what kind of like?
Did you take pictures in your yearbook?
I may have.
You didn't.
On speech and debate, I was on speech and
Oh my
debate
God, you're
team.
such a
They're
nerd.
reputable pictures.
You were such a nerd.
I was shocked by that, but I guess to me it's more surprising because white people never really talk about how racist they are. It's always like we pretend, I guess as a society, that it's like this one
The
or
white
that one
man's
or this
plight.
one or that one, and we can kind of name them on a couple of hands. But it's like if this is all of y'all, just say that. Like if it's everybody.
now, what you're not gonna do is generalize. We're not gonna generalize.
I'm saying because maybe it wouldn't be so shocking if every white American over 50 said, "Hey, I've done," like just say that so that we can quit getting shocked by it, and then maybe it won't be. Now, mind you, this was released on the first day of Black History Month, that Northam photo, which I resent because it makes me feel like somebody was holding on to it and waiting till February. That pisses me off. But in general, I do think if we were more honest about it, like I went to an event with the young nonprofit professionals of Atlanta. And it was
I used to be a part of it. I like them, but I don't have a nonprofit anymore, so I don't go.
Oh, so forget the community. I went to just a dinner, and it was kind of discussing race, and literally that was the entire agenda. So we kind of split off and talked about a few things, and there was a lot of my white peers who kind of said,
We call them Caucasians.
white.
Call them Caucasians.
Of the Caucasus Mountains.
They kind of said there was one in particular who was talking about her father, and she was like, "Yeah, it's hard." She's like, "I haven't been home in a while. I kind of quit doing Thanksgivings because, especially with Trump being elected, he's just, she wasn't descriptive. She wouldn't get detailed. She wouldn't say like, yeah, man, like he's trying to string up some, like she just wasn't very
Wait, was she African American?
She's white. No, she was talking about her father. This
Oh,
white.
because
yeah.
okay.
He was who, what I gather, is incredibly racist and maybe even aggressive or outwardly hostile towards all minorities. And that sentiment was shared amongst a couple other people in the sense that their parents are very racist, or they've got a lot of racism in their family, etc. They were there, and my impression of all the whites in the room was that they were non-racist. But it was very common for them, like in their immediate families, and I did not realize. Maybe if we talked about it more, like I said, it would be less shocking. But if I'm like taking a tally or a survey in this sort of room, I'd say it was about 70-80% of them have really racist parents to the extent that they feel uncomfortable. I'm like, man, is that?
I mean,
again, you got to think about the eras. These kids' parents are probably like baby boomers and stuff. In that era, that was okay. You were allowed to be a racist, and actually, you weren't even a racist. You were just going with
normal.
society.
Right,
you were
right,
normal.
right.
So, there are certain generations I don't expect to change. Like the baby boomer generation, when it comes to white and black relations, if you can convert one, kudos. But don't hold your breath. Like
I think we need to spell that out a little bit more, because the idea that I think they need to spell it out. I think because from a minority perspective, and my father is we got our own level of racial insensitivity, but it cuts all ways. We throw it at everybody, ourselves included.
Yeah.
But to me, the idea that you have somebody in your immediate family who's that type of a person is very odd because I don't associate with people like that. Not with anybody who would harm anybody else, not with anybody who wouldn't care about anybody else, like based on their color. Like that doesn't exist for me, so it's very foreign to me and it's weird to me. And this is somebody that you love, they're your family, but for me it's very odd to swallow that you come from such hateful seed. Like, and that's
is it really right to call it hateful seed?
Hateful seed.
Like, because the way that I think of it is, like, not really to say hateful, or, like, let's put it like this, because I can't say for the individual, whoever is going to go towards, whereas, like, say, for example, I come from a place of, like, all right, either, one, you haven't met with other people, like, other people of diversity or color to actually being able to, like, all right, expand your perception of it. Because, say, for example, like, with most of these people, and I know it's going to sound weird, like, oh, a 23-year-old kid is going to start talking about, is going to start explaining a 50 or 60-year-old, like, mental processes better than they can, but whatever. Because it's like, once they're, like, back in the days, just like you guys said, this was instilled upon these people. And for most of these white people, no offense, it was like the social norm. Like, they didn't really have that interaction of like, all right, let me be able to befriend somebody of a different racial culture only because this is all they know. And this is all that what their parents is teaching you, especially as a kid. So you're not really going to think of it like that. And from whatever your parents are going to tell you, that's your word of law. And that, along with some of the experiences that you come to collect as you're growing up and whatnot. So until that fateful moment, until something comes up and it's like, dang, now you're going to be really pushed out to the wall. I mean, you're going to be pushed to your uncomfortable zone. So it's like at that point, you're not going to be able to like, all right, all the other like perceptions of race and everything like that, you're not going to see it like how we're going to see it. Whereas like you're coming at as hateful, this and that. You're just
do you think that do you think that someone can be a good person and be racist?
I mean, it's possible. It's just the fact of like they just been disillusioned with like whatever people been taught. Because truth be told, that's the situation for a lot of us, where especially in life, where it's like, say for example, if we never gone through an experience but we got it through TV or whatever, we're gonna relate. The first thing that relate to that experience is gonna be the closest thing that we had to it. But until we actually gone through the full experience of it, then we can't really say much about it. In that sense, just like, all right, if a person never met a black guy before, he's not really going to know how to go about it. But let's say any one of us comes and meets him, his whole persona may change and stuff like that. Whether it could be bad or worse, we don't know until we meet up with him or the type of person he is and whatnot.
That's true.
What about you? What do you think? Can you be a good person and a racist person at the same time?
Yes. Because I can say that I don't appreciate the death penalty. I don't like the death penalty. And as a result, every color can be sentenced to death. So I don't like the death penalty, but that doesn't mean I like black folks just because I don't want them to go to the death chair. I don't care for the death penalty.
Wait, what? Can you work that back?
Like, okay, let's say I don't like the death penalty. Mm-hmm. The death penalty goes across the board. It's not limited to one ethnicity. So just because I'm advocating for maybe the guy that we advocate for happens to be black, doesn't mean I have to like black folks. I just don't want anybody to go to the death chair. But it's a good deed because I don't want people to be put to death. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, I get where you're coming from.
In terms of this? So who's the good person? Who's the bad person?
It's not really.
Well, it makes you a good person because you don't want anybody to go to be executed. But if you rally for people to not be put to death, and a lot of them happen to be African Americans,
so you're saying they could do some good that blacks benefit from. Ergo,
doesn't mean they like black folks.
You can do good for black people, but you don't like them.
I was gonna say, because what I'm talking
I'm
about
just
is
saying,
not
yeah.
people's acts. I'm talking about their hearts. Like somebody who doesn't believe that a certain race is equal.
I say no.
Oh, well, that's what.
And that's what I'm trying to understand. I'm talking about somebody who's racist. So can a racist person also be a good person?
Of course.
No, I think a bigoted person can be a good person. I don't know about a racist.
Oh,
I don't think a racist can be a good person. Because if you're a good person, that means that you don't judge people, that you don't judge anybody. So if you're judging a person,
Well, wait, that's
off
not
their
fair
race-
though. That's not fair.
But that's what I want to hear. That's the perspective I want to hear.
We
though.
judge on anything.
Oh, wait,
But I'm not a racist though.
That's the perspective I want to
You're
hear.
a bigot.
If
But
you
what's
believe that there's a people,
You're a bigot. So
That's like
no,
an
but
upgrade.
race has the uniqueness of the fact that no one can choose it. So as much as you may be proud to be black, you're also inescapably black. Like nobody asked you.
But
So the
then-
fact that your race, we're talking about race, and that is different than saying, well, I don't like fat people or I don't like thin people, because that is fluid. Color is not fluid, and color is not choice. So,
But then
if you
that
don't
same
like a whole
argument
group of
can be
people-
made on sexual orientation. The ideology
yeah,
people are born
yeah,
that
which
way.
that would make
So-
that can be made. So, are you a good person if you're a homophobe? Are you a good person if you're a racist? I don't know if that's the case.
I mean,
No.
It depends on how you define good person.
a
How would you
good, a
define
moral
good
person, a good person, a moral
moral
person.
person. But I mean, then we're just basing everything off their morals at that point.
True.
I'm talking absolute morals.
Then what is
I believe that
absolute
there's
morals?
right and wrong, and that I know people have their own interpretations of it, but I do believe there's right and wrong. So, is it? I'm asking for your opinion. Can you be a good person according to what good means to you if you're a racist? According to your belief in what's right and your belief in what's
I don't
wrong.
think
That's all
I don't
more
think that's
perception.
I don't think that's as black and white as it sounds. I think
How?
you can get gray in that, because you can be a good person and not like a class of people that you
No.
just have to interact with.
It's
Okay,
like, say for-
explain. Give me an example. How?
If I don't have to like black folks to do good things that will come from the heart, that would I would genuinely be a good person. I just would probably, as long as I'm not going out to harm that particular group of people,
But you do dislike those
can I-
people.
I dislike a lot of. I don't even like black people.
Hold on. Hold on.
If we're gonna be honest,
Hold on.
sometimes I
Hold
don't
on.
like my own race.
We're not going to be that before educational first. So you believe that as long as you don't act upon what your dislike, as long as you dislike X group of people,
Okay,
you
wait a
can
minute.
still
Let
be
me
a
put
good
it this way.
person.
Okay, I can dislike somebody but not hate them. I just may not like you. Doesn't mean I hate you. Hate will fuel you to do some nasty and terrible things. Dislike will just be like, okay, well, I don't want to get close to those kinds of people, but I don't hate you. You're just not my cup of tea.
It's just like
That's not a
ignoring
good
somebody.
person.
How's that? We do that all the time.
No.
You rich? Do you go
I'm
down to
not
College
rich.
Park
I-
and go
I
slumming
do.
down in College Park?
I
You
do
got no
not,
business
because
over there.
I don't want to go down there. But it's I don't look at those
Well, why
people.
don't you want to go down there?
I don't look down
Those
on
people look just like
There's
you.
a-
because we
No,
have
no, no.
nothing in common.
Well, they can say the same thing.
That doesn't mean I look
That
down
is
on them. though.
behavior. We are talking about someone's moral character. Here's what I'm trying to say. Like, and it's because for me, it's hard to swallow. It's okay. It makes sense to me that this is your family. You love them. It's another thing to say that this is my family and they're good people. Like, that's where I'm having a hard time understanding. So does that mean that for the 80% of people in that room, that your family are actually bad people? Because in my mind, if you don't believe that all people are equal fundamentally, as is laid out in the Constitution after its amendment, just basically, then how can you call yourself a good? I feel like you're not a good person. It doesn't mean that you can't give to charity. It doesn't mean that you can't. It doesn't mean that you can't, tithe. But if you don't believe all people are people, then I don't think you're a moral person. And that may be your choice in how you choose to go about the world, but that's very different than. It'd be hard for me to swallow that in my family. 'Cause there's people in my family when I have moral qualms with it, I don't associate with.
I don't know if that's a fair assumption to make, though, that people, just because they don't like black people, that they equivalate black life to less than their own.
So you think there's levels of hate that determine that?
In this particular scenario, I think
Okay.
it should be. 'Cause I don't
That's
think
a valid answer.
I don't think that's fair to say that just because I don't like black people, that I would be to the point where I hate them and I'd want to punch one in the face on sight.
No, it's just, are you a good person? So you can have
I
that
think that's
answer.
a loaded question. I don't think that's a cut and
It
dry.
is.
I want to see if I could try to put in on this. I feel like, in a sense, you can be, but then it's like, for me, I'm not going to lie. With me, I always see two sides of the story. Because for me, I'm just going to have that middle road where it's like, it varies. Because I believe, like, yes, you could be, but then it's just like, how do you find your racism and how do you go out? Where it's like, all right, say, for example, all right, me over here, I just don't like blue people. And it's like, all right. It's like, that doesn't mean like I'm yelling out like racial slurs to blue people and whatnot, but at the same time, it's
Which
like
is pretty much hatred.
It's like I'm living in coexistence with you, but at the same time, I'm just not affiliating with you. I'm just not like, all right, I'm not sitting over here having a beer with you or having like that. We're not kicking it. It's just like, all right, hi, bye,
Which is,
But
again,
there's a
it's the same
lifestyle
ideology.
choice that is, it's just different. Like, it's a lifestyle choice is different. There are some people who just, you have to confront that ultimately you're not doing that because you believe these people are lesser, which means that you probably believe that you are superior. In some situations, it's reversed. There are some people who believe that they're lesser. It's called self-hatred. So that does happen. But more often than not, if you believe that there's a group of people who are lesser than you,
then why would you put that on that level to yourself then?
Yeah, but is that within the African American community, we already have that problem. We saw it when Rwanda broke out between the Hutus and the Tutsis. Their fight was because one group of people was more light skinned and were raised by colonizers and so on and so forth. But it really boiled down to the way they looked. They're all black people, but just because one is light skinned and one happens to be darker, now we got a civil war that broke out in this country. So is it really fair to put that on another race and say, well, just because you don't care for us? Well,
that came from them. I mean, there was classes assigned within black people that's not from us. That didn't come from us. That's just a side effect.
Yeah, but we took it and ran with it, so we were holding it within our own community.
Okay. But that to me is not the same thing. And I would still argue. So I would still argue that right is right and wrong is wrong, whether it's 1850 or 2050. Right is right and wrong. It just is. And like there's something to be said about time, but there's only so much to be said. Like, wrong is still wrong. And so I'm asking, like, at this point in time, I don't know how you get past that. I don't know how you say, like, well, people can change if they've never acknowledged that they've changed, if they've never acknowledged that they were racist.
Well, if we're talking about solely elected officials, then it should be reflective in your policy. If the things that you vote on, you said we can see all that. If the things you vote on are detrimental to ethnicities, then you probably still have an issue. But if you've actually spent your time making sure that bills were passed to better the socioeconomic classes of these people.
That could just be a result of the day, though. That doesn't mean that their heart is in it.
Well, so I'm saying if we see a consistent pattern of, you trying to better the socioeconomic status of these people that you may not care for, then that is signs of change. I just think about myself. I like my people, but I don't love my people all the time.
I mean, black people don't know me sometimes too.
I mean, people are people.
Feel that way, and I'm
people
sure that Caucasians
perfect.
feel the same way. They probably have some Caucasians that bother them.
I mean,
so
these are all thoughts that we have about each other. It's just the fact of, like, are we going to make it open, or are we just going to start being all fake with each other, where it's just like, oh, say, for example, like, no offense to the black community, where it's like, all right, the whole white face thing, and we're over here like, oh, they did this to us, so we could do it to them. But then it's like, nah, bro, this is not racist and stuff like that. But it's like, are we lowering them down? Are we building ourselves up only to lower them down and stuff like that? Because if it is, then we're no better than them, and we don't want to be going in that direction, and that's the case.
We didn't enslave them, though.
But at the same time, but no. But wait, we did enslave Africans. Did enslave Africans though back in Africa? It's just the only difference
still heavily
is
debated, though.
Hey, I can only say this because I know my history. Because I'm African, and I had to speak with my old man.
Oh, so because no, I'm sorry, but
and there's another.
I'm sorry,
from
but
Simone
as a slave descendant who I have no knowledge of my history, what my religion or language or any of that was. I feel like that was a slight to me. So because you know where you're from, F me. I don't know where I'm from. So you can speak.
That's what you're assuming, though.
You think people like
there's that perception.
Do you think people are proud? Maybe I would like to. The signs of colonization and enslavement are very clear.
On you, you're saying in general.
Right. And do you think that's a good
you
thing?
saying in you or in general?
On some people, more than others?
Because in reality, we all know where you would be in
on some
days.
people, more than... No. That just means that I look like my struggle.
What?
I look like my struggle. I do. I look like the colonizer. You think that's something... I mean, my father is very high yellow and dealt with this for a long time of being very ashamed to look like the oppression we went through rather than being 100% African.
What color is your mom?
She's brown skin, I guess.
Like my kind of brown?
This is very hard for me to do. Yes. And so, but he doesn't like that. He's not proud of that, of being so pale, of having pink lips and pink he's not proud of that.
Oh, he's like really light skinned.
Yeah, he's not proud of that. He doesn't like it, So I found that very offensive that I don't know my ancestors. I'm sorry, I don't know that. That was robbed of me. That knowledge was robbed.
I was just saying that in general. If you want to do that for yourself,
you might need to talk to one of them online therapists that can spark a conversation. You took that really, really offensively.
I just wanted to say.
Okay, well, let me say, I asked that question for a specific reason. Delegate Mary Ann Lusanti from Hartsford allegedly told a white colleague late last month at an Annapolis cigar bar that campaigning in Prince George's County on behalf of another candidate amounted to door knocking in a nigger district. Reported the Washington
Can you say
Post.
that?
I just did. I'm black. So Prince George's County, which is with a population of about 65% black, is one of the most affluent majority black counties in the U.S., according to the Census Bureau. Hartford is 80% white. So, of course, she apologized, because that's what she's supposed to do, for her word choice several weeks ago. I am sickened that a word that is not in my vocabulary came out of my... That she said she was sickened by a word that is not in my vocabulary came out of my mouth. It does not represent my belief system, my life's work, or what is in my heart. Is she a racist?
Just fire everybody. Just fire them all of them, man.
Just throw them all. Just throw it away. I'm just like
It's
not in your
vocabulary. Where's the receipt for
vocabulary.
this? Was this like an eyewitness testimony, or was she on live tape? Like, how did this?
I don't even know. It doesn't say how it happened. It just.
I'm assuming that there's receipts since she apologized. Otherwise, she probably just denied it. I'm assuming.
Oh well, at least she did the right thing. So Luzanti also apologized to the Legislative Black Caucus of Maryland on Monday. She said she did not recall using the slur and offered an inadequate apology. The caucus said in a statement on Tuesday, "It is clear Delegate Luzanti is unsuited to continue in a position of leadership in the Maryland General Assembly. The use of a derogatory term exhibits that she does not hold the requisite contrition to be entrusted in a leadership role moving forward."
Which just means we care about your heart. What's your heart posture? Yes, I'm glad you don't, you can't just donate to UNICEF and have a black best friend and go around calling things N-word districts. So it does matter what your heart posture. Are you a good person? We've quit making that argument to a certain extent, and even very many Trump supporters, very vocal Trump supporters have said, I'm not looking for a moral leader in our president. Other people have said very much the opposite. We expect people to be decent people, maybe not, cherubs or Boy Scouts, but decent people. And,
all right, final thoughts.
Yeah.
Shahid, go first.
My final thoughts of all this: the world is a crazy place, but it starts from you. It starts from you if you really want to be the change in this world. That's what
I'm so proud of his growth, aren't you?
Yeah, he's done well. Kyle?
For me, I think one of the main things that lead to depression is comparing yourself to other people and social media. So I just want to say, don't do that. And if you see somebody on Instagram and they have something, it's probably not theirs. And if you are feeling depressed, a suicide prevention line that you can call is 1-800-273-8255.
Simone?
Yep, I'll say pretty much the same thing. Be a good person. Use critical thinking. Use your own brain. You just don't become a sponge for anything and everything that's out there for you.
Shouts out to Shahid, because I've seen your lives. So he was tasked with doing lives to get more comfortable talking and exerting his feelings and thoughts. And he's been very diligent. I actually commented on one the other day. I was actually quite proud of him. Thank you. Good job to Shahid, because even though I had to fight with him to get him to do it, but now he just does it instinctively. He does like 3 or 4 weeks. So kudos to you for following instructions.
Because all I needed was a strong person to push me, because I could have done it. I just need that push.
Just one mic.
And I just want to say to everybody, check on your strong friends, because sometimes we just want to run to somebody. So we'll see you on Monday, same time, same place, on the Leadership Lane with your host, Ricardo D. Rice.
IBNX Radio.